Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel. Finally, welcome back to my channel. It's been too long of a break. Unfortunately, international boredom has really hit home, but the last few days have certainly brought a few pieces of news with them that need to be discussed. They need to be discussed at the same time. Realistically, we're still in the same trot that we were in before the international break, where we sat in 10th. We're not going to sack the manager, really, unless something drastically changes after international break, in my opinion. But we'll talk about that in more detail. But Thomas Tuchel has, out of nowhere, turned up to be the Bayern Munich manager after Bayern sacked Julian Nagelsmann. We will talk about that in a little bit more detail in just a minute, what we thought of that and how we all took that when it came out, because I don't think anyone really saw it coming. But yeah, we have a lot to get through. We welcome also a new guest on the channel. Some of you might know him from other streams and obviously Worldwide Chelsea. But Carlito, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Where do I start, even if I'm honest, man? We're still in this position where I'm like, okay, we're 10th. International break. I'm like, okay, I need more games. At the same time, I'm scared of more games because we might drop more points. And now this whole managerial situation has happened. And I'm not sure how much you followed necessarily what I've always said about the situation. But for a while, I was always like, okay, I understand why people have problems with Potter, even though I'm like, well, let's see what happens. Then even I was like, okay, nah, he needs to go after Tottenham and the Southampton games. But then I was like, well, he's not going anyway. So, okay, let's see what happens. We beat Dortmund. We win 3 games in the bounce. Then obviously Everton happens, which was brilliant. And then all of a sudden, Julian Nagelsmann becomes available, which to me, especially initially, maybe that's calmed down a little bit again since then. That was a bit of a game changer where I'm like, well, now I do see an adequate replacement. Now, you might have a different opinion, but until now, I was like, well, I don't really believe in any of these replacements. Now, Luis Enrique is an option, I guess, but there's certain question marks where I'm like, if we just start again, who knows how it's going to go? We might just sit in the same position, even if he has more experience, in the same position in the next 6 months, and I can't really be bothered. But Nagelsmann is a bit different. So how do you see the whole situation, Carlito? And what are your thoughts on Julian Nagelsmann?
The international break always brings football inertia to fans, to teams, to the game itself. Don't you guys feel like this was far too premature to have another international break right after we just had a 2-month-long World Cup that was surreal and ill-timed in the winter of all places, and now we have another international break? I don't know. It goes beyond greed. It becomes, almost gratuitous. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about the manager situation for a second here. Succession just started again on HBO, best show on television. And the main patriarch of the family, he constantly accuses the family, the kids, of being not serious people. Now, I do believe that the executive branch of Bayern Munich has just accused Julian Nagelsmann of not being a serious person. Okay? The way he dresses, the way he skateboards to, the training facility, the fact that he's kind of a hipster, he's definitely a millennial, the way that he's combative in the media, and the way that he probably thinks that he's smarter than his bosses. All of those things.
Let me interfere. He probably is smarter than his bosses when I look at who his bosses are, to be fair.
But what I'm saying is that I actually feel as though a lot of the things that Oliver Kahn and company have said in the last couple of days have suggested that is exactly how they feel about Julian Nagelsmann. Now, I'm cool with it. He's maybe 2 years older than I am, but has the same attitude. When I used to be a coach, I had that attitude. I did think I was the smartest guy in the room. So I get it. But I don't know if Chelsea is even entertaining the possibility of firing Graham Potter. And I don't think it has anything to do with the amount of money that they've pledged to him and the amount of money that they bought him for, and the fact that after this year, they're still on the hook for $48 million, whether or not that's a contract restructuring or whether they can fire him for cause, what have you. We don't know the details of that contract. Nevertheless, I actually think they really like Potter, and I actually think they really like the team that they've constructed. A lot of things have come into play. Bad luck, injuries, the World Cup, which is in and of itself a very disruptive thing. And you have to take all of that. It's a confluence of events. On top of the fact that Graham Potter has had some Joe Biden-esque gaffes in the media during press conferences where he said things where you're like, ooh, I bet you want to take those back, man. I bet you want to take those back. So you have all of that stuff going on top of the fact that you now have fans accusing Potter being a yes man and Bowley only wanting to hire yes men, even though that's not true, because Bowley's track record with managers of the other clubs that he's owned, he has not hired yes men. But you have all that stuff, and then we're not winning. We're in 10th. We're in flux. Some days we look great. Some days we look flaccid. You have all that stuff, and the fact that Graham Potter is not a fiery guy. A lot of Chelsea fans just want him gone, and I think that a lot of those are disingenuous reasons, but there's enough other reasons, like the non-winning, like the fact that Thomas Tuchel was still available and they still wanted him back. It's just not a good thing. It's not a good place for Potter to be in, and the only way for him to get out of it is to win. Period, full stop, end of story.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. The whole Julian Nagelsmann stuff it's a weird situation because Bayern Munich are kind of turning into us, really, in the sense of that they're sacking every manager every 18 to 24 months. Now, with the exception of Hansi Flick, who didn't get sacked but walked, but every manager leaves that place after 18 to 24 months, which is why Thomas Tuchel is kind of a perfect fit, to be honest. But
he'll burn out. He'll burn out in 2 years, Laurenz.
Yeah, the question is, will he burn them out first, or will they burn him out first? At Bayern,
question.
that is a serious debate. Like it's a weird place. Bayern Munich is a weird place, and they've changed drastically over the last 7, 8, 9 years from what they were before that. It's very interesting.
Would you say that that's because of like a post-Pep era and mindset?
I'm not perfect in my memory in terms of when their higher up changes took place from like Hoeneß and Rummenigge to the Oliver Kahns and stuff now. I'm not sure if it necessarily just came in tail with those higher up changes or if it happened before. It might be a post-Pep thing, but they were like that before Pep as well, really. Like how Heinkes got the job was only taking over from someone who they sacked in the middle of a season. And Heinkes was there before Pep, wasn't he? So I'm not even sure if it only started then. But let me get to Pice. Pice, thank you for being back on. As always, I appreciate it massively, of course. Before we talk about Tuchel, and we will have different opinions on that, I'm sure. But let's stay, civilized for the time being. No, I'm joking. But sticking to Julian Nagelsmann himself first. First of all, the fact that he got sacked. I mean, they are second in the Bundesliga by 1 point. Their next game is against Dortmund. And I don't know Nagelsmann's record for Bayern against Dortmund, if I'm honest, but I don't remember them losing much. So, it's not like it felt like, they were going to lose and then therefore be so far behind in the league that they might not win the league. They haven't lost the game in the Champions League. They only conceded 2 goals in the Champions League. They only lost 3 games all season. But obviously, they only won 5 of 10 games in the new year as well. So it's always like, look at Chelsea. Were we like, yes, we didn't lose against Everton, but we were still fuming, So not only losses are bad results. The better the club, the more so that applies, or the bigger the club. But still, the fact that they sacked him, I mean, what Carlito was talking about in terms of, I'm not quite sure if it's quite as the way he dresses or the way he turns up on his skateboard. I'm not sure if he actually turns up on his skateboard to training, but he's certainly known to use his skateboard.
It's a funny rumor.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I mean, the guy's 35. Like, what do you expect? Like, you should have known that when you signed him. Like, again, he's 35. He's born in the 90s. Or is it 80s? Regardless of when it is. 80s. But still, late 80s. Like, come on, what do you expect, Mr. Oliver Kahn? But, guys, I think that kind of shocked the whole footballing world. Obviously, once Nagelsmann was sacked, it wasn't exactly far-fetched that they would get Tuchel. But the fact that they sacked him in the first place was surprising, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was surprising to most of us, especially the fans that just concentrate on the Premier League. But when you look at Nagelsmann's record at Bayern, it was very, very good. I know they had a few draws. I know they're not top of the Bundesliga right now, I don't think, but overall it was very good in terms of like the goals they scored, conceded. They're into the Champions League quarterfinals. They obviously beat PSG over 2 legs. So when you look at it like that, it's quite impressive. But there was rumours that certain players didn't like him or whatever. The usual stuff that comes out when a manager gets sacked. And I think a few of the Bayern bosses said that they had to make a change because of certain things, style of football and that sort of thing, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely surprising for myself really to see that exclusive come out.
Before you elaborate more on Nagelsmann himself and potentially at Chelsea or whatever, just to quickly touch on what you just were talking about in terms of what the Bayern bosses or how they kind of explained it to the public, it was very odd because they were talking about rifts in the dressing room, and then I think maybe even 3 separate players at Bayern were asked about this, and they all said it's not true. So the Bayern bosses, like it's hilarious. And we're not talking just any random player. It's Joshua Kimmich and Goretzka. They both said, well, I can only speak for myself, but I am not aware of any rifts with anyone here. So that was hilarious. And I saw a clip of where Salihamidzic, the sporting director, was shown this on like a Sunday morning football TV show in Germany. And, he was like, blah, 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 yeah, rift and this and that. And they showed the interview and he was like, yeah, but clearly just didn't know what to say. I'm like, you lot are just a bunch of mugs, honestly. I hate a lot of them. But hey, do you see even the smallest, or do you have even the smallest inkling that there is a chance Chelsea could replace Potter with Julian Nagelsmann? Because the reports if anything, said, like it says on screen, Chelsea want to support Potter, but he has to deliver now. Another report from Sami Mokbel said, basically, we're eyeing it up, we're admiring Nagelsmann, but things would need to go real bad again under Potter for that to happen. So I guess, do you see it as going that bad again under Potter, that this could happen before someone else snatches Nagelsmann up?
I don't know whether I can see it being as bad as it has been, but I certainly think, I certainly think with all the the links we've had, played a goal with Florian Plettenberg, he's very reliable. Sami Mokbel, very reliable. I think this month, next month actually, April is going to be really, really big because we got 9 games and it's literally April, then May's the end of the season. So I feel like they're still like monitoring, Potter's situation. They're assessing it. They're assessing the job he's doing, but obviously, Todd Bowley definitely does want to stick with him. But at the end of the day, Christopher Vivell is definitely someone that would, really like Nagelsmann, I think. And also, it kind of makes a little bit of sense, right? Because, I don't know whether it's an easy link because like Nkunku's coming, who was his former manager, Nagelsmann, so Vivell's here. I don't know whether it's easy links, like easy stories, or whether it's genuine, but I do think there's a small chance Graham Potter gets replaced, but I think it would be in the summer. It would be a decision that's made after the end of the season. But I personally don't think it's going to happen. I think Graham Potter's going to get, next season and however many on beyond that.
The only thing I'm really scared about, I'll be perfectly honest with you, that we're going to do the same thing we did last year. We're going to give Potter preseason, then things might not be as good as Bowley would want, and then in September we sack the manager. I just hope that doesn't happen, because if he does that again, we've got to have words, mate. I understand, okay, he wants to stick with the project, but then you got to stick with it and not sack him again in September. That would be just ridiculous. Either you sack him in the summer or you don't. You have those 2 options. But I mean, Jester makes a not too unreasonable point, really. I mean, I'm not maybe saying it's the only reason, is maybe not quite true, because obviously if they were flying, winning every game 7-0, regardless of Tuchel being available, they probably wouldn't have done this. But alongside, obviously, 5 draws or only 5 wins from 10 games in 2023, and, potentially a few rifts. I think there was rifts, but I don't think within the squad as much. Now, obviously, there was reports of some players didn't like the manager. I just always find, where would Bild have this information from? About 6 different players. Who would have told him that? Because those 6 players must have all individually told whoever the source for Bild is. And that just, to me, seems unlikely. But there was most certainly a rift between the manager and the higher-ups, which maybe it's why we're also so into Nagelsmann, because it just screams Thomas Tuchel again. What is it with all these German managers, other than Jimmy Klopp, that are not able to stay on board with their bosses, really, and after a while always have some sort of issue. Sometimes their fault, sometimes not their fault. I don't even want to put blame on it, but it just always happens. No, I say always. It hasn't happened for Nagelsmann before, as far as I'm aware, at Hoffenheim or Leipzig, because he was on both occasions just bought out by a bigger club, really.
Can I address Jared's tweet?
Wanting to get Thomas Tuchel doesn't make sense. Go on, Khalid, what were you going to say?
Yeah, and hello, Jared. Jared's a good friend of mine. So I don't think it had anything to do with Tuchel being available for hire. I think it had to do with his emotional availability. I think Tuchel wanted to take 5 months off. And I think Tuchel was pretty pissed that he was blindsided by Bowley and co. for getting fired. But look, there needs to be a little bit of context added to this Julian Nagelsmann scenario. And that is the best striker of the last decade is Robert Lewandowski. And this season, Bayern Munich has been without Robert Lewandowski for the first time since he left Borussia Dortmund. This guy has been 40-plus goals a season machine. And not only is he a goal machine in the likes of Haaland, he's also an unbelievable footballer. Because there's a difference. There's a profound disparity between Haaland, the player, and Robert Lewandowski, the player. Robert Lewandowski is a comprehensive footballer. Erling Haaland is a poacher. Erling Haaland is nowhere near the footballer that Robert Lewandowski is. And they have structured the entire game plan around the combination play of Thomas Muller and Robert Lewandowski. And now that there is that gaping hole that has not been replaced, it was a no-brainer that Julian Nagelsmann was going to struggle. You got what? Choupo-Moting? He's not a Bayern-level player. And then you have Thomas Muller, who's not a striker. He's a hybrid player, very good.
He's
very
also getting
awkward,
on. Like,
very
he's also getting old.
funky. I know, but like that's not a replacement. Not an adequate replacement for what you just lost. So you have to provide that context when saying, okay, Nagelsmann is in second place in this. He's still I think he's still in the German Cup tournament, and then he's in the quarterfinals of Champions League. All things considered, and despite the fact that they play kind of erratic football, it's like they constantly have to reintegrate their attacks because it always the pattern play between the middle and final third kind of breaks down a lot. So then they'll win the ball back and then they'll go at it again. But they're pretty relentless about going at it again, especially when you have a player like Musiala, who's great. But I know that the football has been wonderful under Nagelsmann.
I need to say something on Musiala, right? And even most Bayern fans that I've personally at least spoken to seem to agree with this. Musiala is amazing. But
he's awesome.
The guy has about as much end product as a flipping pigeon. Like, the guy cannot score anything.
Well, that's what I'm
it's
saying.
A serious issue for the guy. And he still gets a good amount of goals, but he should have like 5 times as many.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is that they need to like constantly redo their attack every 2 minutes because it does get stifled because the end product is not there. Part of that is the guy playing the ball. The other part of it is the guy at the end of the ball, which is not Robert Lewandowski this season. So you have to, Laurenz, you have to give that context with why Nagelsmann is not 15 points ahead of everybody else. It's because you lost the best striker of the decade. And that does matter. And Tuchel, if Tuchel had been available in September emotionally, they would have hired him then. I do believe that they were sick of Nagelsmann, sick of his, millennial bullshit, even though I love it. I think he's hilarious. I don't think they thought he was hilarious.
But if your assumption there is true, like that's why I'm not sure whether I agree with your assumption. Simply because, like, yes, there might be a few morons in charge of Bayern Munich, but like surely you would be aware of that before you hire the man. Like that, surely that wouldn't surprise you, right? Like, if you had an issue with that, don't hire him in the first place.
Yeah, but you're sometimes attracted to the shiny new thing, the new revolutionary thing, until you actually get it and you say, some of those red flags that I maybe had in my mind but I ignored, maybe those were there for a reason prior to the hire. Maybe.
Just quickly, would you want Nagelsmann at Chelsea?
I love Nagelsmann. I think he's fun. I think that he provides something fresh. I do question some of his pattern play, though. Like if you watch Bayern, like you said, with the final ball and everything, it's not all there. Now they have a lot of wingers, and they don't really have a focal point. I think that's part of it, and it's not dissimilar to Chelsea. A lot of wingers, not really a focal point. But I do feel like we actually play better football than them. Now maybe that's a personnel issue. I'm not sure, but I think he would have more tools to play with at Chelsea, despite the fact that we're having a terrible season. I actually think that we're stacked personnel-wise, and if we bring in Nkunku, and if we bring in, Victor Osimhen, then Nagelsmann would fly with this team. But again, I don't think it's a matter of would we want to hire him. I just don't think we're going to fire Potter, Laurenz. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, honestly, neither do I. Unless, like, obviously we touched on a few minutes ago, unless results go really bad again now until the end of the season, unless that happens, I don't see us, unfortunately, going through a managerial change either. Pice, just quickly, as far as I know from you, you would be very much in favor of Julian Nagelsmann. What makes you a fan of his? Because there is certainly things that he has done where you're like, okay, maybe that Bayern move came a bit too early for you. Maybe because obviously he started his managerial career so young and obviously went through Hoffenheim quite quickly. Now, he took them over in the middle of a season when they were 17th or whatever, but the season before that, they finished 6th, I think. He had a lot of ups and downs with kind of all teams. Like Leipzig, for a season or two, he was up there almost fighting for the title, but realistically, no one fights for the title against Bayern unless they have a bad season like this season. But then it was also then back down to 6th, and then back down to up to 3rd. Where it's like, where's this up and down coming from? Is it just him being young? But I don't know. Like I really like he has like a thing about him where I'm like, I'd be intrigued to see how it goes if it were to happen that he ever comes to Chelsea. But as with most managers that aren't called Pep Guardiola, maybe Jurgen Klopp and a couple of others that you can count off on less than one hand, there's always going to be a few doubts. But obviously the question is less or more doubts than Potter. And that's why I'm like, well, Nagelsmann changes the game because I'd have less doubts than I do about Potter. Then again, he's only been in the Bundesliga. So obviously so was Klopp before Liverpool. But we all know that Chelsea fans are not ready to give Nagelsmann, if he were to come here, as long as Klopp took Liverpool to do anything useful. So, what is your opinion on Nagelsmann and why would you want him at Chelsea?
I just think he's a better manager than Potter, really. I think he'd do better here. I think, people say, well, he got sacked from his first big job, but I think Leipzig's a bigger club than Brighton. Personally, he got them into a Champions League semi-final, which is very.
You could argue Hoffenheim is a bigger club than Brighton.
Yeah, I think he's just worked with bigger players, bigger clubs. I don't think well, on the outside at least, it doesn't seem that he deserved to be sacked, especially not when you look at the statistics, really. And I've just always, like you, I've kind of been intrigued to see how he'd do in the Premier League. I think, tactically very versatile. I think, what he plays, the brand of football he plays could probably work here, to be fair. And I just see a lot of similarities between, like all the German coaches, like they're very just tactically good. They're very, mentality wise, it's always there. They're always on point. I just think he'd do really well here. But it would be definitely something that would be interesting because obviously he would probably have ups and downs like Graham Potter. I don't think it would get as bad as it has been under Graham Potter, but personally, I'd be more willing to, stick out for a manager like Julian Nagelsmann and for Graham Potter personally. But I know everyone has difference of opinions.
Yeah.
There is some people that will say, well, he's just a young manager. He'll you'll want him out in 6 months type thing. But I just personally think I don't know, like it's just certain managers you think, oh yeah, he's a Chelsea manager. Like I just kind of think he's got that about him, really. But
if he goes, apparently a Spurs fan, so that
if he goes to Spurs, then I definitely won't think that. But
I say half is an exaggeration, but there have been Chelsea fans who have come up with a ridiculous idea. Let's get Conte back. When I read this, I'm like, have you paid any attention to anything? Like, how would you ever think that's a good idea? Like, what the flip, man? I mean, who was it here? Don Potter. I'm not sure if your name.
I love that.
I'm not sure if his name doesn't like slightly ruin everything he says in terms of credibility.
Look at that avatar.
Yeah, exactly. That's not even the one I meant to bring up. This is true. Potter's done a better job in Brighton than Nagelsmann in Leipzig. Now, this one could argue for. I will say that but it's obviously Leipzig. The thing with Leipzig is why it's difficult. Excuse me. What's difficult about a club like Leipzig is, well, you're not kind of really good enough to beat Bayern just because of how they dominate everything in that country, but you're too good to really fail and like have a real stinker. So you're like, well, I do think Potter has overachieved more with Brighton than Nagelsmann did with Leipzig, but because that overachieving step is the next step would only be Bayern, that's so much more difficult that it's kind of difficult to compare in my books. In my opinion, it's much more better to compare the Hoffenheim and Brighton situations. But Hoffenheim have very different kind of financial power in comparison to other teams in their country compared to Brighton. So it's again difficult. But in terms of size of club, I guess it's somewhat similar. The impressive thing about him, in my opinion, is just how quickly he managed to just impress everyone. Because like Bayern Munich are not exactly known to take chances in young managers. I know they kind of did it with Niko Kovac, but only after he did really good things at Frankfurt as well. You know,
it didn't last long though.
No, absolutely, and you know that's their issue. So yeah. I do find him an impressive guy. I do find him an impressive manager. In an ideal world, I think he would have a few more years before, and maybe a bit more of a broad experience before coming to us. But like Pi said, do I think he's better than Potter? Honestly, I probably do. But what I'm not sure about is, would he long-term function with Bowley? That I don't know. But Chelsea fans don't really care about that, do they? Otherwise, they wouldn't want Tuchel back. Or they wouldn't still miss Tuchel as much as they do. It's a whole situation. Pice, I know you won't like it, but we need to talk about it. We need to talk about the Thomas Tuchel situation. I mean, we've made it clear, you and me, talking to each other, that we were very unhappy about, well, each other's opinions about how this kind of, the whole Thomas Tuchel presentation at Bayern Munich went, in which he gave a press conference and decided it was a good idea to say outright, we want Anthony Barry from Chelsea. I personally think it's a ridiculous thing to do, especially because I've been a Chelsea fan and have watched Thomas Tuchel for 18 months in every single press conference I do not talk about players from other clubs out of respect. Every single press conference I had to hear him say that, basically. Every single one. And the first one, he sits at Bayern and is like, yeah, I want this coach, naming him by name from Chelsea. I'm like, I don't, like, that to me is not ideal. Now, the bigger issue has now occurred that Bayern actually turned up asking for Anthony Barry and didn't even initially offer compensation. Where I'm like, Bayern, you're just pricks. Just go away. Just leave me alone. Why are you in my life again? Just stay away. Why is there this link between Chelsea and Bayern right now? I hate them. The fact that I constantly have to see Bayern things. The Chelsea accounts are posting Tuchel taking Bayern training sessions. I even understand why some are doing it. You still miss him. You're not happy with the Chelsea situation. But it still pisses me off, you know? It's still like, I don't like it. I wouldn't like this for any manager, by the way. I don't care what you've done. And we haven't done this for any manager that I've ever seen. Did Jose go to flipping Spurs? Is a bad example. But did Jose go to Man United? And did Chelsea accounts post training pictures? No. Did we do it when he went to Roma? No. Like, why? Did Di Matteo, when he went to Schalke, did we post training pictures? No. It's a different time. Social media was less prevalent, I guess, but still, I personally am not a fan. It has now, since then, and Pies, I'll let you say your piece in a second before we get to Carlito on it as well. It has now, since, you know, the story has developed a little bit, that Anthony Barry has apparently told Chelsea that he would like to join Bayern. They have now offered compensation, but not anywhere near the kind of compensation that we would like. So now it's kind of negotiation happening. And Anthony Barry is currently staying away from both Cobham and Stamford Bridge. If things aren't sorted by the time we play our game on Saturday, he will still not be involved, which is interesting. Am I, in terms of the individual Anthony Barry, would I be so disappointed to see him go? Not necessarily. At the same time, everyone seems to praise him quite highly. And obviously I can only judge what I see on the pitch. And I don't know really what's his fault and what's not, because I'm not there in training to see what he does and what he doesn't. So as fans, I don't think we're probably best placed to judge whether he's good or not, if I'm honest. But it doesn't seem like, you know, it's that amazing, considering that he's our set-piece coach mainly. And we have been dreadful at set pieces for way too long, quite frankly. Both attacking them and defending them. So, yeah. But, I still thought it was somewhat disrespectful from Tuchel. Now, some people will say, well, it was disrespectful from us to sack him. Fair enough. Two differences. Number one, 8 months have passed. He's not a child. He's a 50-year-old man. Let's not, let's not say, oh, yeah, well, he just paid us back. But he's 50, man. Let's not act like pubescent teenagers, okay? But also, we paid him millions for the sacking. They didn't even offer us compensation. So, like, come on now. Well, Andy, as I'm sure you're aware, Barry was also assistant manager at Belgium at the World Cup and before that. So the Portugal isn't new. So this was happening before that as well. at the same time, not much happens during international breaks, so you might let the guy do what he wants, really. We all know that Barry eventually wants to become a first-team head coach anyway, so probably wants to just build a few more things, get a few more things under his CV, under his resume, and yeah, so I have no problem with Barry going, and if Barry asks to go, we'll get him gone. Because if he wants to go, then get him. I don't want him to be here if he doesn't want to be here. Do you know what I mean? Off you go then. But yeah, I still found how just don't name it by name, man. If you say, yeah, we still want some other coaches that we've worked with in the past, not naming it by name, even though everyone knows who you're talking about, then I'm like, okay, you at least kept a certain amount of respect. But naming by name, I don't know about that, bro. But regardless, I mean, Pies, obviously, if you want to say why you didn't find it disrespectful, you can. But in general, going into the whole Anthony Barry situation, what do you make of that? Are you bothered if he leaves? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I know me and you disagree on this. I don't know. I just didn't have the same reaction you did. I don't think he said anything offensive, and you was like, oh, well, it's the whole thing about just doing it as the principle and stuff.
Yeah,
but
yeah, no, it's not like he said any words that are a specific individual word. It's not like he slagged us off or anything. It's just like it's not.
I don't know whether it's just.
Let me ask you one question. Name me. Can you even name me one example of any manager ever saying publicly that he wants a specific assistant coach? Have you ever heard of that happening?
Yes, Robbie Robson with Jose Mourinho.
Okay, so it's 30 years ago. So that tells you then why that it's not a done thing, and that it's not the etiquette, and that it's not respectful.
Yeah, and he didn't even say it on Twitter or anything like that shit.
But still, if you don't think it's disrespectful, I'm not trying to change your mind here. We just have different opinions. It's okay. Carlito, I'll get to you in a second. Let me just let Pies finish on what he wants to say on this.
No, yeah, just I don't know whether it's because I just don't really care about Barry that much, or whether it's I think that's probably it. Because if Tuchel came out and said, oh, we want Enzo Fernandez in the summer, or we want this and that in the summer from Chelsea, I think that's a bit different. But like I said to you, Chelsea hold the power here. They don't have to agree to anything. And if they're that disappointed by it, they don't have to let him go. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
I'm not sure if you've seen people that talked about this on Twitter, and maybe you can obviously disagree with that as well. What I do agree with is people that have said Tuchel did this absolutely on purpose to somewhat unsettle Barry and make it more likely that he will agree to it. Because you can say Chelsea can obviously say no, but do Chelsea want to keep a coach that asks them to leave? They probably don't. So it's like
Barry's been close to leaving on several occasions, and he's happily ended up staying. So I don't think that's
But now he's apparently told us he wants to go there. While until now was happy with both decisions. That's how I looked at the reports anyway.
Personally, I mean, I don't know him personally, but if I had to give a guess, I would probably say that even if he didn't, go to Bayern now, and we said you can go in the summer, I don't think he'd kick up a fuss like he does. He's not ever really caused problems here. So
we should do that anyway, by the way, because if we play Bayern Munich in the semi-finals of the Champions League, now unlikely because we have to beat Madrid first and they have to beat City first. But if we do, and they have literally our set piece coach, well, then we are flipping mudded. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah. I mean, I made the funny joke that people were saying, "Oh, Barry's going to give away all our tactics," and then Frank Khalid and me were like, "What tactics? Express yourselves." But it was, it was quite funny.
I don't even think on pitch tactics, but more what we do in set pieces. He would know, wouldn't he? Because I mean, he taught us.
Fucking hell, what do we do? That's the whole thing with me. I don't know. We concede so many, and I think our attacking from corners. When's the last time we scored a fucking header? Leeds? It's not too long ago, but still, it's not been that many, good headers from corners and stuff. So. Yeah. I don't think our set pieces are amazing. Especially there's always
Fofana scored quite recently, no?
Yeah.
Was that the
against Leeds? Yeah, that's what I was saying. But just in we always have someone different take the fucking corner kicks. It's just a bit of a mess. And I actually think it's probably a little bit harsh to just call him a set piece coach, because I don't think I know we know that's his main job, but on match days he does all the drills to the warm ups and things like that. I think he's. We don't know what he does in training sessions. I think his job extends a bit further than just doing set pieces, because otherwise, you won't. I mean, I know there's set piece coaches, but I'm sure. Well, I think I'm sure that you don't get paid, a massive amount yearly just for working on set pieces. So
I mean, I don't know how much he gets paid. Maybe he doesn't get paid massive amounts anyway. But
well, I mean, he's at Chelsea, but anyway,
yeah.
I mean, it's
He's not
just
going to be poor. That's
yeah.
for sure.
I don't know. I think he's, as you said, the title there. He seems to be. Everyone says he's really highly rated. So, I think it's quite interesting, and yeah, we'll see what happens, because if he goes now, they're going to have to agree some compensation fee.
Yeah.
And like you said, if we do get them in the semi-finals, I mean, that's not a good thing, is it? Because he is going to definitely be given any hints and stuff.
I do find it weird how, to bring a little bit of a different sport into it, in Formula One, when people, staff, whether it's engineers or all sorts of people, move between F1 teams, there is a certain period that is agreed on pre-contract that you are not allowed to work for another team, just to not give away information. That's usually 1 year. Sometimes the teams agree to letting them work for them after six months, kind of like gardening leave, like we had it with, what was it, Paul with Stanley, or who, one of the guys that we got. That was kind of along those lines. That was happening. But no one talked about that in terms of Anthony Barry. So I'm surprised that that's not a thing. Like, even if he wanted to go, surely we shouldn't let him go before the summer, right? I think so. Just to add one thing to it, someone said, Tuchel has every right to want Barry. I just want to make it clear, Tuchel didn't bring Barry to Chelsea. Barry was here when Tuchel turned up, because he stayed from the Lampard kind of coaching staff. He was the only one that stayed, as far as I remember. Maybe one other stayed. If Scholt Löw, for example, just as an example, one of Tuchel's assistants that he took with him, if one of them had stayed after Tuchel's sacking and he wanted him, well, that's a whole different conversation. That's totally fair enough. It's his assistant, obviously. But, I mean, there's a reason why that guy didn't stay at Chelsea, also sure. But still, that's also partly why I'm like, but he's not even your guy, man. He was here before you. What are you doing acting like he's your guy? He's not your guy. Anyway, Carlito, what have been your thoughts in terms of respectful, disrespectful, what you think of that? And in general, Anthony Barry going, do you even care?
Anthony Barry is not just a set piece coach. That's a total
no, of course not. But
that is bullshit. He's a defensive coach. He's highly rated. Obviously, his goal is to be a manager. And in fact, even this season, at the beginning of the season, he was linked to be a first team manager. Yeah. Not a defensive coach. Not
I think in like coach. League One, to be fair, but yeah.
Yeah, he wants the job, the big job. Okay, this is why he's spreading himself out. This is why his agent is putting feelers out everywhere. Thomas Tuchel absolutely did this on purpose. And it is, Laurenz, you cannot say that it is above a 50-year-old guy to want revenge. No one is above revenge if they have been, in their mind, disrespected enough. All right, like you look at how Tuchel got fired. It wasn't because of results. It was because of strife behind the scenes, not just with players, but with the board, with the executive branch, with the owners, with the training staff. He was abrasive. And not only that, but he didn't want to be the holistic, comprehensive leader of the clubhouse. He wanted to be the coach. He did not want to be the face of Chelsea.
I would still never understand that, because
he did not want to be.
Either.
Yeah, but
he would have only had to do it for 3 months, man.
The reports are he didn't want to do anything but coach. And Bowley's like, buddy, I need you to do a hell of a lot more than that. And he just didn't want to do it. Okay, fair enough. Tuchel go.
But that's why I'm like, where's the disrespect? Okay, the new owner wants you to do that. You don't want to do that. Therefore, the inevitable thing to happen is that you get sacked.
Surprised.
So where's the disrespect coming from?
Because the reports are, he was very surprised that he was called in and just said, "You're fired." There wasn't, I guess there wasn't any like warning.
Yeah, which is like, absolutely, I do actually agree with that. Like, if Bowley was so unhappy with Tuchel not being happy with these things, Bowley could have told him, well, you need to be happy with it, otherwise we will sack you. They could have told him that first.
I feel as though Bowley came in, he said, who is the hottest young manager? And he was told by everybody the next guy to replace Gareth Southgate is Graham Potter. He's great. He loves yoga. He talks about mental health. He's a comprehensive guy. He's a progressive guy. And this is a guy to bring you in to the 2020s and beyond. This is a guy you want long-term. Bowley says, great, I want that guy. Look at Tuchel. He's curt. He's abrasive. He's kind of brutal to his players, which I love because I was that way. But yeah, Tuchel is just, he feels like an antiquated era manager, despite the fact that he's not. He just comes across that way. And Bowley said, my shop, my manager. I want my guy. And I feel as though that propelled him to not even tell Tuchel that he had problems with him. I think he was just waiting for one reason. And after
But
that
apparently
game,
they weren't talking since like the Leeds game.
yeah,
So
but
like,
after that game
you
where
know.
you saw in particular Hakim Ziyech, the way that he played that game, the game right before Tuchel was fired, it looked like everybody was misbehaving. And worst of all, Ziyech was he looked like a child out there. So it just seemed as though Bowley had all the reason in the world, and he didn't feel the need to respect the protocol of telling Tuchel, we have some problems here. He said, no, screw that, you're gone. And I feel as though Tuchel feels slighted by that. And he took his chance to get back at us, and he got it. And I think he's going to get his guy because he absolutely unsettled Barry, whether he knew this was going to happen or not. Publicly, Barry can now say, I'm unsettled. I'm attracted by this Bayern Munich job and Thomas Tuchel and all these players and Sadio Mane and blah, blah, blah. Great. He can go. I don't care. I don't care at all.
Yeah, there you go. And that's like, you can't only twist it that way that Tuchel might have felt harshly done by. Now, I see what you're saying in terms of, a 50-year-old isn't above revenge. Sure.
No way.
But my guy went to India to find himself. Do you know what I mean? What the fuck did he go there for?
Yeah,
like,
Dave
if you come out of that whole thing and want revenge, then that whole thing failed.
Dave Chappelle went to Africa to find himself. He came back meaner. So don't tell me this yoga shit. Come on, man.
I don't know what he did in India, do I? I watched this one
either.
lengthy interview that he did in India where he certainly seemed like calm and relaxed and didn't seem like he had any qualms with Chelsea. But regardless of that, my opinion is I am a Chelsea fan. So
me too.
I will support Chelsea in a disagreement between Chelsea and an ex-manager. Simple as that.
Yeah, of course.
As it goes. When my friend has a disagreement with someone who I'm not friends with or was a friend before, well, then I'm going to back my friend, aren't I? Do you know what I mean? But anyways, let's move on from that discussion and let's move on to the next thing that Thomas Tuchel has brought about, which is quite interesting. And it's not this one. It is this one, also by Tom Ruddy. Unfortunately, you didn't post that one with a picture. Would have done nicer, guys, but apparently, Bayern Munich are looking at making a move for Mason Mount, with Thomas Tuchel being an admirer. Isn't it weird how most Tuchel fanboys hate Mount, but Tuchel absolutely loves him? That is kind of weird. But, just to follow on from it, I can't have two things on the screen at once. Tom Roddy also said there is widespread expectation that Mount will leave Chelsea. Paul Stanley took over negotiations, but a deal has not been struck. The club would want at least £50 million. Yeah, I mean, obviously that. Yeah, I mean, Tom Roddy isn't in terms of bad reliability, but I'm like, this whole expectation. I still think anything could happen personally, but I would most certainly be more willing to let him go to Bayern Munich, even if I personally dislike them, than I would to let him go to Liverpool, simply because then it isn't a local rival. So, if Tuchel can sort that out, appreciate it, mate. Take him, if rather that than Liverpool. That's my opinion on it. Khalid, how do you see that? Do you care at all in terms of where Mount goes, if he goes? Or do you also see, well, it would be better if he didn't play for a direct rival in the Premier League?
I have to, Pies, right? I have to give a shout out to this guy. He is a great news aggregator, as well as someone that also comments on Chelsea. I got to give you props, man. You do a great job. You are the hardest working man in Chelsea show business. So,
that is true. That is
well done, dude. Well done. And you recently just unblocked me, so I appreciate that too. All right, Mason Mount.
Actually, you had me blocked, bro. You had me blocked. And I don't know why.
That may be true as well. That may be true as well. But we're all good. We're all good.
And look how we all have grown as people.
I mean, look, I'm 34, and I'm not above petty either. But today, I feel as though this is the healing process. All right, so here's my deal with Mason Mount, Laurenz, Pice. Mason Mount is just a guy. He's just a guy. There's nothing significant or elevated about any of his physical attributes as an athlete, because a lot of times this gets lost on football fans and just sporting fans in general. You do have to also be an athlete to be a premier player. Messi, unbelievable athlete. Mbappe and Haaland, I mean, give me a break. Two of the most outstanding athletes of our time, right? João Felix.
Ask Eden Hazard about how much of an athlete you need to be.
Well, there was a time. But, I mean, João Felix, great athlete, right? So you have to have high levels of athleticism. Either that or you have to have significant attributes with your feet. Andrea Pirlo, not a very good athlete, but he had one particular thing that he was so sublime at that he was allowed to participate at this level. Mason Mount is just average at essentially everything. He's not fast. He's not quick. He's not strong. He's not tall. He's not great in the air. He's got a decent shot. He's an okay passer, and he's an okay presser. Okay, people think that just because he works hard, that means that he's working smart. No, running around aimlessly is not working smart. It just means you're running around aimlessly. So that player does not have any significant physical attributes that I would consider to be world-class from an athleticism perspective. And because of that, and because of the fact that I also think he's kind of an egomaniac, and I think that he has drunk the Kool-Aid a long time ago about the idea of Mason Mount. The myth of Mason Mount. He has started to believe that shit. All right? People are in his ear. People like specific YouTubers, I won't mention them, people that like specific people that work for The Athletic, for instance, or people that work for the Evening Standard, right? Or people that work for the Daily Mail. There are certain journalists that love to boast about Mason Mount and say, oh, I'm friends with him and I talked to his father and all this stuff. So he has made this entire idea about Mason Mount, and a lot of it is just not true. He's just an average player. He's like a handsome version of John McGinn. So if John McGinn did not look like that and look like Mount, they would be the same guy. They'd be the same guy.
What's John McGinn done to you for you to call him ugly all of a sudden?
I'm Scottish too, man. I get out of here with that. But no,
like John McGinn. But can I just quickly jump in? I do have to slightly disagree with you on the athleticism thing in terms of two things.
Okay.
I agree with most of it, but stamina, number one, and number two, being available all the time is a big part of being a successful athlete. And
That's fair.
And I guess Havertz have that over pretty much everybody else in our squad. Now, Enzo Fernandez looks like he's that guy, but, he's only been here for 3 months, so we don't know yet. But, I just wanted to add that. But anything else you wanted to say on that Mason Mount thing?
The availability thing is great because availability is an ability in and of itself. 100%, I'm with you. The stamina thing, that's a choice. That's a choice of any athlete. He probably just jogs a lot in the off season and just gets ready and is prepared for the season. Any athlete can do that, even ones that not naturally have a predilection to stamina. Like, you can get there. So that is a choice. I'm not going to give that to him as some athletic trait that is superior to people like Mo Salah, because Mo Salah would still run circles around Mount in terms of stamina. And Salah does it for 90 minutes. He's done it for 7 years. So Mount, look, at the end of the day, I'm just going to say this. He's just a guy. And therefore, because he's so unimpressive in so many different ways, you bring in a guy like João Felix, you bring in a guy like Christopher Nkunku, and no wonder all of a sudden, all of these things that are going on with his contract have become heightened and exacerbated and more present in the media than before. Because before we didn't have João Felix, before we didn't have Christopher Nkunku. Nkunku was not going to come here when Tuchel was the manager. When Tuchel left, all of a sudden we bought Nkunku. All right, so all these players are coming in to play the same position as Mason Mount, and now all of a sudden he's incredibly unsettled. Now Liverpool wants him. Now United wants him. Now Bayern Munich wants him. All of these things are obvious and intentional. It is because I don't think he sees himself as Chelsea anymore, and I don't think Chelsea sees him either, because if they did, they wouldn't be trying to replace him so hard.
Okay. Yeah, right.
I
don't necessarily disagree. Someone in the chat said, will any of these other clubs meet Mount's wage demands? That is a good question. And I don't know. And I don't know what Mount imagines that way, because I don't really see Liverpool paying him 240 grand, which he apparently wants at Chelsea. I most certainly don't expect Bayern Munich to pay that. So I don't really know. But I guess he wants more money to maybe not always play. And if he is always playing, like he would at Liverpool, like if Tuchel wants him, presumably he would at Bayern, then he's probably okay with less money, I guess. If I play less, then at least I want more money. Maybe.
Can I give you just their top? Can I give you Bayern Munich's top 5 wage earners?
Yeah.
Okay, Mane 423. Yeah. Manuel Neuer 403. Thomas Muller 394. That's ridiculous. Leroy Sané 384. Joshua Kimmich 375. He's great. Sergei Gnabry 362. That's a lot of money per week. That's a lot of money. That's more than
that. I'm pretty sure those numbers you just gave me are pre-tax, though.
No, that's gross. That's gross pay. But that's the same thing. This isn't Italy. This is In England
You
and
do
in
have,
Germany,
like,
they
you
do
have to
gross
keep
pay.
a bit of thing in mind, and most of those have been long-standing players at the club, plus
Mane's
Mane,
new.
who they got
Mane's
for
new.
really cheap.
No,
So
but
it's like,
I know what you're saying. You're talking about net versus gross. I work in marketing. I totally understand what you're saying. In Italy, everything that you see in terms of wage is net because it's after tax and it's all the stuff that you give to the government and your agents and all that shit. No, those were gross numbers, the same way that they are in England. Same thing.
fair enough.
So
Pice
they
up.
can afford him, is my point. They can afford him.
Yeah, no, hey, fair enough. Pice, your thoughts? Mason Mount, would you prefer him to go to Bayern compared to Liverpool? I assume so.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't, as much as I may not rate Mason Mount as highly as others. I'm in the position of like, if he stays, he stays. I think he'd be a really good bench option. I don't think he sees himself as he probably sees himself as a starter, but I don't think Chelsea see him as a starter, and I don't think most of our fans, if you think logically, don't see him as a starter anymore with the attackers we've bought, and Felix could stay, and also we might sign more attackers to replace the ones going out. So it could just even get even more difficult for Mount, but. Yeah, having said that, selling him to a Premier League rival would not be, the best of things because obviously he could become a top player. But at the end of the day, I've always been in the position of if we get our recruitment right, then we shouldn't have to look at we made this mistake, we made that mistake, sort of thing. So if we do sell Mason Mount, it is to Liverpool. Make sure you make the right recruitment. Make sure you get the right replacement if you are going to buy one. That's just basically my position on it. I'm just so done with the whole contract situation. It's been going on for ages, and it's just boring now, to be honest. But still, there's still
Why
stuff
is it
coming up.
boring for Mount, but it wasn't boring for like Rudiger?
What's
Because
that?
it wasn't any different in terms of how long the whole thing took, dragged on.
Well, I think the thing is why it's so boring is because Mount's one is we still don't really know what he wants or that type of thing. Whereas Rudiger was he wanted 200k and then he changed it to 225 and we couldn't agree a deal. It was as simple
And
as
then we
that.
got sanctioned and we couldn't offer him a new one. Yeah.
Yeah. So with Mount it's every week there's oh, it's this, it's the length, it's this, it's bonuses, it's image rights. It's oh, just fucking sort it out. Just sell him or bloody keep him. It's really that simple. It's just boring, man.
Attach another question to this? You know how the report earlier, what I read out, that Paul Winstanley has taken over these negotiations from Todd Bowley. Is Paul Winstanley maybe just not that good at negotiating? Is that a possibility here at all? I don't know.
I don't think so because he was really high up on Brighton's hierarchy team, wasn't he? And he's
Brighton. So you hold that against Potter all the time. So surely you should against Winstanley, no?
Well, no, it's a bit of a different job, bro. It's not as
I think it's a bigger difference in terms of the contract negotiations dealing with Brighton players and dealing with Chelsea players. Much bigger difference, in my opinion, than dealing with tactics. Because tactics, yes, better players change things to some extent, but really, football tactics are made in a manager's mind, regardless of how good the players are. So,
well, if he sucks at contract negotiations, then Bowley shouldn't have him as co-sporting director. That's
absolutely. But obviously, we also think you, even more so than me, think we shouldn't have Potter as the manager either. So we never know now.
Can I throw something in here because I think this is pertinent. Number one, they may be negotiating in bad faith. Okay, and unlike Tuchel, who was very, vocal about his love for Mount, and he was often, in fact, it was pervasive in all of his pre and post game press conferences. He would talk about Mount, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Potter, I feel as though Potter talked about Mount during the first couple of months of his tenure to placate and patronize the fans. I don't actually believe him. I feel as though he wanted to ingratiate himself within the community, say, yeah, Mason Mount. And then he watched him play. And you kind of hear that he stopped talking about Mason Mount. Now, he could say that is under the auspices of the contract and the club,
but
Mason and his
did
father.
He ever talk about Mason Mount without being asked about Mason Mount first?
Not really.
So that's what I'm saying. So maybe they just stopped asking because, you know,
No,
he didn't
but
play well
Tuchel would
anymore.
go-
So what are
Tuchel
they
would
going to ask him?
go-
Like,
Tuchel
oh,
would
do you
go
think
out of
he's
his
great,
way.
even though he's
Hold
playing
on.
awfully all the time?
Tuchel and Lampard would go out of their way to praise this player. Graham,
That's
you're right. He's just reciprocating a question, and I get that. But I also just don't think that Graham Potter thinks he's as good as other managers thought he was. And this, I mean, especially if you bring in João Felix, you're bringing in Nkunku, they are objectively better players. And Graham Potter's thinking to himself, if Felix is available, I'm picking him over Mount every time. As would any manager worth their salt. They would pick Felix over Mount because he's just objectively better. And I feel like this is Graham Potter continuing to distance himself from previous comments like Mason loves to play in the games. That's one of the comments I bet he wishes he had back. But now I just feel like he's distancing himself even more from the idea of Mason Mount being here long term.
There you go. I mean, Winter Surfer, Cully just kind of gone against your super chat. He has not really sounded like
he's fucking with me. Andrew's a friend. He's just.
No, I am aware of that, but still, you know, you certainly didn't sound like, oh, you love Mount.
This guy, Winter Surfer, no tan Superman. Good lord.
But, bro, I appreciate the super chat regardless.
Hey, buddy.
Mount. Pice, would you like to elaborate still on Mount or in terms of what Carlito potentially said? Because, you know, my thinking is still, as a number 10, I don't think that's much of a debate that João Felix is clearly better. That also probably Nkunku is clearly better, even though I'm not sure how often Nkunku has played as a normal 10, more so as a kind of one of these wide 10s, like 3-4-3 10s, or part of a front two. I still think in a different formation where, you know, as an 8, where Felix wouldn't play, where Nkunku wouldn't play, Mount would still be picked. The problem is we're not playing that because we're buying Nkunku. We might buy Felix. We'll talk about Havertz in a minute, but we still have him, and we have all these other forwards and wingers now. We're not going to play a 4-3-3 with 8, and that in my opinion was Mount's killer. The fact that we bought all these 10s or buying all these 10s, because if we don't have 10s but wingers and strikers, then you can play a 4-3-3, and there is, in my opinion, a space for Mount in the team. But if you're going to play 10s, then we have better 10s than him. So there's nothing you can do about it. So that's why I'm like, well, yeah, if you go to Bayern, I can much more accept that situation than if you go to Liverpool. But I really am absolutely not. I will never agree to him going to Liverpool. I don't care how bad he is. I don't care what's happening. I will never agree with selling players to rivals. I would just.
And what formation do Liverpool play?
You know, absolutely. I understand it. But yeah.
Exactly. This is the big problem because we've said this. Mount is, you know, if we played a 4-3-3, I think he would stay. Absolutely. I think something would be agreed because I think he starts in a 4-3-3 quite a lot of the games because I think that's his best position. Yeah. Anything else, as a 10 in a 4-2-3-1, you've got Nkunku, you've got Felix, you've got Havertz who can play there next season behind a striker. If he stays.
Yeah, Chukwuemeka is a shout. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, like, and then 3-4-3, I mean, it gets even worse. You've got Mudryk, you've got Sterling, Felix, Havertz. Like, it's just, and that's the thing. It's like he's seeing this, and we're also seeing this, and we're like, right, well, we can make you an offer because, again, the reporting has been as well, Chelsea want him to stay. But at the end of the day, like, you can't give someone, like, again, maybe a bit of, presumption from me, but you can't give someone ridiculous wages to sit on the bench. It doesn't work like that. I don't care what you've done. So,
yeah,
you know, it's very hard unless you're a world-class player to do that, and you can afford to do that. Like, especially because we're trying to do this whole incentivized contract thing. I'm not saying he doesn't want to sign an incentivized contract, but clearly it's not, you know, the desire to sign one is not as strong as, you know, other players.
Especially an incentivized contract is going to be less attractive for a player that doubts how much he's going to play. Because those incentives are always going to be on the basis of some sort of stats, goals, assists.
Exactly.
Minutes,
and that's why.
And if you're not sure you're going to get the minutes, then how are you going to hit those bonuses?
That's why I can't see him staying, because I'm just like, everything that you think of logically, like, it doesn't add up. Like, the hope is just that he stays, he agrees to something, and then, you know, maybe I don't know. Like, I just personally feel like Chelsea won't back down, and I don't think Mount's backing down either. So I only think that leads to one solution, which is him leaving. I think that's what it will be. But I mean, we'll see. Maybe, like, I just can't see, when have Chelsea ever gone, okay, we're going to make an exception. We've made you this offer, a month ago, but actually thinking about it, we're actually going to go down a little bit. We're actually going to give you what you want. Like, that doesn't happen. It doesn't matter what player you are, unless you're like Messi or something. I don't think that happens.
Obviously that's how negotiations work, though, right? So even if Mount demands, say, as a number 240k, I'm sure, negotiations, you usually find a compromise somewhere in the middle. It's very rarely, shall I say, that either one's demands are hit perfectly, right? There's usually some sort of compromise.
I agree, but I think both sides are, they're not backing down. Like, I think Mount wants what he wants. Chelsea want to give him what they want to give him, and it's just
we touched on, he probably wants what he wants because he is probably aware that minutes might be more difficult to come by. Now, I still believe that Mount backs himself to force his way back into the team, no matter who's there. I think that's how he thinks. Otherwise, I don't think he would have made it to where he has made it to. I think that's the mentality you have to have. Otherwise, you never succeed to as far as he's come already. So that's my proof for that. But he's still aware that might not happen instantly. And then he probably wants that, like I touched on earlier, that bigger money. If I'm going to be on the bench sometimes, then I want at least more money for that. If I'm going to play all the time, well, then I'm maybe a bit more okay with a little less money. Maybe it's one of those. I don't know. It's a difficult
Can I piggyback on this for a sec?
Of course.
Raheem Sterling signed his contract on July 13th, 2022. It is valid until June 30th, 2027. Raheem Sterling makes £325,000 gross pay per week, so that's pre-tax. Mount looks at his compatriots. He looks at his co-workers on the national team. Reece James, Raheem Sterling. They're making a ton of money. He wants that type of money. Chelsea doesn't want to pay him a Raheem Sterling contract, one that is guaranteed high base salary.
Do you think we can afford to do that now, though? Now that we've got all these big signings in?
I think it's going to be a delicate dance between looking at what your payroll should be versus what your net spend should be. And that is going to be something that we have a very tight window to figure out if we want to keep any sort of recouping revenue within this fiscal year. The fiscal year will probably end on June 30th. That gives us essentially between now and June 30th to recoup a lot of money. We need to start making deals now. We need to start selling players now. Not after breakfast, not after fucking CSI, now. We need to do these deals now. If we want to get rid of Ziyech, you do it now. If we want to get rid of Mason Mount, do it now. And they can sign as soon as the window opens, which I think is June 10th. Like, these deals that we couldn't do now last year at this time, we can do it now. And we should.
I agree with this comment here because, Sterling was one of our first. Was he actually our first ever signing?
I think he was the first one we announced. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that window was kind of crazy. We really did. I don't know. It was not very logical with the amount we spent and all that. Yeah. But
I was going to literally say that. Yeah, I think Bowley might have clocked. Should not have done that
as well. The reason why I agree with this comment is because we also have the reports, and I think they're true. Matt Law said that if we don't qualify for Champions League, which is obviously very likely. Some of the new signings actually agreed to have pay cuts for next season, which is insane.
I really wonder if that includes Sterling or not. Just because it was done because he was the first one. Like, would he have even thought of that?
Is it if they don't make Champions League? I think that there's a percentage cut.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. I assume there's maybe a smaller percentage cut. I think it probably goes in steps. If you go for Champions League, you get 100%. If you're only Europa League, maybe you get 80%. If you only get maybe Conference League they ignored. And then if we get no Europe, then you only get 70 or 60%.
Isn't that fair, though?
Absolutely. Fair. I think it's great from the owners.
I think it's fair, man.
Yeah. It's exactly what it should be, in my opinion. It should also go for the manager, though, in my opinion. So, Potter shouldn't get paid the same if we're not in the Champions League next season.
That's a spicy take, Laurenz. That's a spicy take.
No, but it's true, though, especially with this apparent... I still will never... That's the part I will never understand. Now, initially, when we got Potter, I just kind of brushed off his wage, the report on his wages, on his contract, as just not true, because it just seemed so ridiculous, but it keeps being talked about. I'm like, surely we didn't... Why did we pay Potter 12 million? Why? How much was he going to be earning at Brighton? What, 2-3 million max a season? Why did we have to quadruple his salary? Surely it didn't take that for him to take the job. So I don't understand why we even offered him such a big deal, unless it also has a performance-based, wage cut in there for not making Champions League type thing. Then I see it as a bit more acceptable. But if it's just pure, straight up 12 million a year, why? Surely that wasn't necessary. I will never understand that. But hey, here we are. Yes, KSI man, we will get into financial fair play talk in a second. It kind of comes into what I wanted to talk about firstly anyway, towards the end of this. But there have been other reports from Plettigol in, I forget his name, the real guy's name. But anyway, Sky Germany. Kai Havertz would like to leave Chelsea this summer. However, he will not be joining Bayern Munich because apparently they are now not interested. And someone in the chat earlier said, it's a bad source. Now, Pice, you say he's a top tier source in Germany, but I do have to agree with the guy in the chat who said, well, a month ago, Plettigol said Bayern are interested in Kai Havertz, and now all of a sudden they're not. So I do have to agree with that comment in that sense where I'm like, well, you did change your mind. Now, I know they have a different manager now, so that might just be the reason for that. And Nagelsmann would have wanted him, and Tuchel doesn't. Sure. But Tuchel has been there for 2 days? Would he really know that already? So definitively, that Kai Havertz is most definitely, Florian Plettenberg, that's it, is most definitely not joining Bayern. I don't know. I find it a weird one. Kai Havertz would like to leave. Yeah, but people know I like Kai. I've got a shirt with Kai's name on it from the Champions League final. So he's but I mean, if he wants to leave, fair enough. Do you know what I mean? We apparently want to sign a new striker. We've just signed 2 out of 10. So where's he going to play? Similar as with Mount, I guess. But just don't sell him to. It's the same as I said with Mount. Just don't sell him to another Premier League rival. And the problem it starts happening now. If he doesn't go to Bayern, well, where the flip does he go? So even if he would like to leave this summer, if Bayern doesn't want him, I don't think there is a big enough club that he would want to go to that would want him. So I think he's going to end up staying.
I have an idea.
Go on.
And I want to preface this and editorialize this by saying I am a huge fan of Kai Havertz. Yep. A lot of fans in this club, this fan base, this very, very strange fan base, they're very sour on Kai Havertz. Probably because I don't think they understand the type of player he is. I love him, but I also know that if we replace him with Victor Osimhen, then I'm fine with it. And if he wants to go, then I'm fine with it. But I will stress again, I love this player. I think he's unique. I think he's sneaky athletic. He's very fast. He's got a lot of different skills. He moves extremely well, not just in the coordinated lines that a striker would move, but between the half spaces, which anybody that doesn't know what a half space is, it is the space between the center back and the outside back. It is a vulnerable zone for marking. It makes it very difficult for them to communicate who's going to press and who's going to stay. That's what a half space is. So Havertz is great at that type of stuff. He's great at linking. He's great at drawing center backs out of position. Same with Timo Werner. Did the same thing. But if we want to replace him with Osimhen, okay, got it. Victor Osimhen is one of the hottest prospects in the world. Great player. He'll probably do even better at Chelsea. And his profile will get higher. He'll get more money. The whole thing, his career will skyrocket. Wonderful. If we do that, great. Now, I'm going to throw an at you, and I don't think you guys are going to see this coming because you have to look at who benefits from this report. Every time you see a report, every time that Pice puts out a report, which he does all the time, he's great at it, who actually benefits from these reports, dropping of these links, the little tidbits that you sprinkle out throughout the ether? All right, who benefits from this? I would say Tottenham benefits from this. If they hire Nagelsmann and they sell Kane, they would want to replace him with Kai Havertz. That is who I think would be the team that would buy him.
Okay. Would buy him, I agree with. They might want to buy him if they let Kane go and they want someone. I mean, I personally don't think Nagelsmann ends up at Spurs just because why? Like, Spurs are not even bigger than Leipzig. Why would he take 2 steps down? I don't understand that at all. So that's, yeah, I mean, I know, but he could have bigger. So why would he accept Spurs? Just wait a little bit longer. Eventually you'll get someone bigger. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. Also, we don't know who's going to take Madrid now that Tuchel is off the market. I wouldn't be shocked if Madrid try, go all sorts of ballsy and go for Nagelsmann. Would be insane.
I think they're going to go for Jose Mourinho.
Really, Jose?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that'll be fun, just for the banter. But
I love him. I think he's the best.
Imagine Mbappe being coached by Jose Mourinho.
You need to track, Kylian. You need to track.
But also, Mbappe would have his best seasons because Jose would let him counter-attack, and that's what Mbappe is by far the best.
Kill it on the counter. Kill it. Yeah.
There you go. But, I mean, yeah, I guess Spurs, but I don't think we would, I hope someone told Bowley that, well, they refuse to sell any player to us, so we better refuse to sell any player. I know we let Sun Bell go there, but,
that's a false equivalency.
No, exactly.
The reason I would say that is because if they get 100 mil for Kane, and they say, okay, you're going to give us at least 80% of the fee that you just got for Kane. You give us. But
surely we would just tell them then we want Kane.
I think they want Chelsea. I think Chelsea wants to go younger. I think the age of Kane is an issue. He's going to be 30.
I mean, it is true, but Kane is still the best striker.
He's unbelievable. I love Harry Kane, but I also think that the aggregate age of this team minus Thiago Silva is probably like 26, 25, 26.
Especially come the summer when Aspie's gone and stuff.
Yeah, thank God. Alshman is 24 years old. I think they want to go younger. If Harry Kane was 24 years old, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Okay, but he's not. And I feel as though he's probably going to go to somebody like Manchester United who could definitely afford him. And then we get a lot of that money, and that essentially will fund Osimhen, especially if we throw in Christian Pulisic or someone like that.
I mean, I mean, with Spurs, it applies even more so than with Liverpool. Hope we don't do any business with them lot. Do you know what I mean?
I hear you.
Pies, what do you think in terms of Kai Havertz would like to leave? Do you take it as true? Do you take it as true that Bayern all of a sudden do not want him when a month ago he said they do? What do you make of the reports? And I mean, obviously, I know that you wouldn't mind Havertz leaving, but what do you make of the situation regardless?
First of all, I would say Florian actually said that, he didn't say Bayern want him. They said they were monitoring his situation because I think at that time it was not, Havertz wasn't playing as much and there was a bit more few questions about his future. But now I think Graham Potter is
Havertz
I think
plays every game, bro. So when was Havertz not playing as much?
No, there was not. It was there was some questions about his future. It was a month or two ago, probably 2 months ago.
Now, where apparently he would like to leave.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think the only club he would join is Bayern. I think he would go back to Germany. I think Tuchel would probably also want him as well. So I think this report is quite interesting. But I mean, we'll see.
Because Bayern need a striker too. Now they might want Colomwani, and they might get him because that's what Bayern do. They buy the best players in their league.
Havertz is not a striker though. He's not a.
Yeah, but Tuchel has used him there, so you would use him there again, wouldn't he?
I mean,
otherwise, you surely would have found a different position for him at Chelsea.
Yeah, but I don't think I think if they buy him as Lewandowski replacement, fair enough. But I don't think he's I think that's the thing.
Havertz is a Müller. That's true.
A lot of reporting where Bayern actually want a proper Lewandowski striker replacement. So
I agree. That's probably why they don't want him because they can't afford a proper striker and Havertz. They Bayern buy a expensive player or two every window, but they only buy one or two and not four. Yeah. So the likelihood that they go for a serious striker, say Colomwani or someone else, and Havertz, that's just the part I see unlikely. Someone said Real Madrid, well, but why? Do you know what I mean? I don't think so. Especially when in 2024, 2025, they will probably get Haaland. What would Real Madrid do with Havertz? That's pointless. And then where else could he go? Maybe PSG if Mbappe leaves?
Nah,
I don't see him as a PSG player. I can't lie.
I mean, me neither, but PSG, they like a big name. Kai Havertz scored in a Champions League final, won a Champions League final. Sounds like a PSG thing to do. Although, obviously, with Luis Campos, things have changed a bit, I guess. But I'm just thinking of clubs that would have the money and that would want him and that he would also accept going to, because he's not, even if Dortmund would want him, I don't think he would go to Dortmund. I don't think he would go to, he wouldn't want to play for Atletico Madrid anyway in terms of style. I don't think he would want to go to Serie A because they're all in the mud. Although I say that, there are 3 teams in the Champions League quarterfinals, so maybe they're not.
You have a guy he's boys with Julian Brandt, but Julian Brandt's not going to stay there.
Yeah, but
Julian Brandt
also,
sees his club as a stepping stone
Havertz
to
is way
something
better
better.
than Julian Brandt.
No. But what I'm saying is that, like, if Julian Brandt sees Dortmund as a stepping stone, there's no way Kai Havertz would go to a team like Dortmund.
Exactly that. So it's like, I mean, maybe if we get Osimhen, Napoli need someone, and maybe we ship Havertz off to them. Now they've got Osimhen money, but
Lawrence, I still think it's Tottenham. I do. I think it's Tottenham. But I
don't think you're necessarily wrong in that Tottenham could try, but I don't think we would accept it.
There's no way Havertz would want to join Tottenham. That's
no,
absurd.
I don't think so either. Like Tottenham is no less of a step down than Dortmund. So, like, do you know what I mean?
Again, it's the Premier. You have to look at the trajectory of the leagues and where they're trending. Sure. Like,
but
England
the
is
Premier
so
League,
good. Yeah,
we still only have them 5 Champions League spots, right? So, like, especially with Newcastle having more and more money.
Yeah.
The likelihood of Tottenham being in that long term is who knows how small.
I mean, who knows? Maybe UEFA gives England more Champions League spots.
I mean,
just to keep the Super League at bay. Just to keep the Super League at bay.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Maybe they will. But yeah, anything you would like to add on that, Pice, before we get into the financial fair play talk?
No, not really. I just think the only interesting thing that I read the other day was that so the window opens last summer it opened on June 10th. I'm not sure if there's been a confirmed date for this.
Because the season runs longer, so it would be interesting if it's the same date.
But essentially, Kieran Maguire, who's like the FFP expert at The Athletic and all these, you can see it here. Basically, what I'm saying was that Chelsea may only have 20 days to complete transfers, sales, for them to for those sales to go on our financial books before the end of the financial year for 2023. So what is interesting is also the last line there says that English teams were only allowed to complete domestic transfers, so like Premier League to Premier League, for the first 20 days. So
why was that even a thing?
I just think I'm not sure, but it's apparently
the first 20 days. That would mean until July 1st. Surely we would have all known.
July 30th, I think. Yeah, June 30th to June 10th, June 30th.
Exactly. So that means surely there was Premier League transfers in July.
No, there was.
Nothing even happening last July.
He's talking about the fiscal year. He's talking about the fiscal year.
No, there was obviously, you can make Premier League transfers whenever, in terms of when it opens, but for the first 20 days, it was just Premier League to Premier League, like for English.
Sorry. I thought after that you weren't allowed to do domestic transfers.
No. You're still allowed to do it, but apparently for the first 20 days,
because maybe European windows open a bit later. Yeah,
some of the windows open later. So I was thinking, well, fuck, maybe. Like all the players we're going to sell, the ones we want to raise money for and put them on the books, like the homegrown players, they're going to have to be to Premier League teams, which is maybe why Mount to Liverpool is like very likely. I don't know.
Possible. Before you both give your pieces to that, and I know, Pies, obviously because of what you do, you've had interaction with many a journalist, and you probably have a relationship with a few of them. So I know you're probably not going to want to think of it quite like I do, but. This Kieran Maguire down here calls himself an FFP expert. So if you are such an FFP expert, why don't you give us numbers? Because all to me that the media is doing here is complete scaremongering. Like, what is this supposed to be? Like, do we need this huge squad clear? Otherwise, but they've not named a number. Like, do you really, like, let's be serious now. Do you really think that Bowley would have gone to buy Dacho Fofana, Andre Santos, Mikhailo Mudryk, when he was literally backs to the wall for 20 days in June to get rid of everyone he can, otherwise we're fucked. There is no chance this is even remotely true in my opinion. Now, obviously, we do need to sell some players. Obviously, we're all aware of this. And if it's homegrown players, because they count for more in terms of the amortization and stuff, they will be valued more for beating financial fair play rules. So we will definitely need to sell some. But I feel like how the media since yesterday, including Kieran Maguire, he has tried to paint this, is as if we need to sell 15 players by the end of June. And I think that's complete horseshit. I think if we sell 3 or 4 in June, we're absolutely fine. Now, obviously not 3 or 4 Ziyech who bring us 10 million, but 3 or 4. If you sell Maguire, Gallagher, and maybe it's because Kieran Maguire here.
I got you.
Gallagher and somebody else
Maguire.
that brings reasonable money in.
I
think those two are already enough, personally. Now, I could be wrong. I could be completely naive. But if they were right, they would be giving us numbers, and they're not giving us numbers. So I think this is the same scaremongering that they were doing a year ago with the sanctions. We were like, oh, we're going to be in non-league football. We're going to be this. We're going to be that. We're going to be, deceasing as a club. Horse shit. All of it was horse shit. And we found out 3 months later, not that most of us didn't already know at the time that it was horse shit, but, they still tried to scare us into it. And that's, in my opinion, what they're doing now. Like 3 weeks ago, go on Sky Sports YouTube channel. Maybe it's more than 3 weeks ago. They were talking about how we are all sorts of financial fair play trouble here and there and everywhere. Why? Like, have people not realized who Todd Bowley is and Benadik Barley? You can question his footballing decisions all you want, but you cannot question the guy's business sense and business mind and understanding of business. The guy isn't going to put himself in a situation where there's a risk we basically get fucked by financial fair play from either the Premier League or the UEFA. There's no chance they let that happen, in my opinion. Pies, Khalid, I'll get to you in a second. Let me ask Pies first. Number one, do you just take those reports as face value? Because, like I say, how often have we seen the media like blow things out of proportion? They're not necessarily lying, and they're not necessarily stating false information. They're just not giving detailed information and therefore making the information sound worse than it is in reality. I think that's what they do.
Well, I will link you something after the stream has ended because Swiss Ramble, they're very, very good in terms of the financial accounts.
Okay.
They literally did like a 30-page fucking article on where Chelsea's situation with all sorts of numbers, and I didn't really understand it, so I will link you that later. But essentially,
was there a conclusion from that article?
Yes, there was a conclusion.
And what was that conclusion? Can you tell us?
Essentially, Chelsea need to sell players, which we already know.
No, we know, but I just think 4 or 5 and not 15.
Yeah, no, I don't. Well, I think Chelsea might end up selling, a lot, like more players than we think.
No, I agree. We will probably sell up to 10, but I don't think we have to for financial fair play. I think we have to for our squad, but I don't think we're in financial fair play trouble if we don't. That's what I think.
I think I think it'd be dependent on how much we spend again as well, comparatively to the sales we make.
It's so like revenue, I think.
Yeah, I think we maybe could get another big 100 million signing, but I don't think we could do another 300 million window or something without selling 200 million worth of players.
But if we sign the big players after June 30th, they count for next financial year anyway.
They do, but then again, you've got to think of now this summer we don't have that loophole with the whole amortized shit with the long-term contracts. So
we can still give them 5 years, so we can still amortize it over that length.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's the same as it will be the same as every other club then. So we don't have that kind of loophole, that bit of edge. But I think it's a bit of scaremongering, but I also do think it's relevant information because if we do have to sell some players between, June 10th, June 30th, 20 days, it's going to be a mad scramble. And also, I think if you're looking at it from other clubs' point of view, they might know this and they're going to be like, well, we're going to lowball you. And then we might not make as much on the sales as we want to. So I think that's a bit of a concern for the hierarchy as well, trying to sell these players for good enough prices.
Okay. There you go, Khalid. Let me take it to you. Do you agree with my sentiment that the extremes to which the media have tried to paint this since yesterday is a bit of scaremongering, or do you think that the situation is quite as dire? And if you do, which I don't think you do, but if you do, why the flip have we put ourselves into that situation? Because as we learned in January, you might want to sell players, but it's not always as easy as you like it to be. We could have sold Gallagher to Everton, but oh shit, Gallagher is contracted to us, so he has every right to say no. You don't just if selling players isn't as easy as people make it out to be. Chelsea have learned that when Marina and Roman Abramovich were in charge many a times, how that isn't always easy. How many summers did we try to sell Kepa in and never succeed? Do you know what I mean?
Fair.
It's not that simple to sell players. So if we put ourselves in a situation where we need to sell a very high number of players in 20 days, well, then we're fucked. Do you know what I mean?
So it's somewhere in the middle. And you have to understand, FFP is a 3-year audit. So you have to justify spending.
I think that apparently the more the drama isn't UEFA financial fair play, but the Premier League one.
Okay, no. And they also incorporate wages into that. I get you. But you have to, it's people don't understand, the marketing firm that I work for, we work on a fiscal year. June 30th is the end of the year. So that's where we look at our financials, right?
Yeah.
And I feel as though like they're saying that this is the way that we have to look at our year of spending as well. And so the window is to make money within the 2022 to 2023 season. All right. So that 20-day window is to bring in revenue so it doesn't look like our losses are as big as they could be if we didn't sell players within that window, because that will be the end of our fiscal year. All right. So we want to bring, we want to sell players between June 10th and June 30th. So it is included in this fiscal year, next year when we say, oh my God, we lost 110 million, it won't be as bad as people think, because those numbers are, teams benefit from crying poverty even when they're not poor. But my point is this, and this is what I said about 20 minutes ago. And the thing about now, I want these deals to be done now, because anybody that thinks that negotiations start the day that the season is over, you're naive. Negotiations start in February. Negotiations start now. So I want, if we are going to sell Mount, if we're going to sell Ziyech, if we're going to sell Gallagher, if we're going to tell Aspi to go away, if we're going to sell Lewis Hall or anybody else, okay, I want these deals done now, so it isn't a mad dash to start negotiations when everybody else is trying to negotiate. And it becomes difficult and convoluted, and our fax machines stop working, especially if they're being directed to France. Like shit like that, I just want it to be avoided the way that we couldn't avoid it last season. We were sanctioned and therefore barred by the now disgraced Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and we couldn't do these shit. We couldn't do these deals in advance the way that we normally would. Now we can, and that is my only urgency. So I'd like to include some revenue to offset the net spend or net revenue within this fiscal year. I would like to do that now so we can have some money, and at least it looks good on the self-assessment after we audit for 3 years and we say, okay, in this year we lost this amount, in this year we lost this amount, maybe in this year we have a surplus. Great. Okay, and that will help us with spending throughout the rest of the summer. But that's the urgency. That's that 20-day window. But it's really not a 20-day window if we're doing these deals now.
Yes. It's just 20 days in which they can be officially completed and registered and everything.
Laurenz, they can sign pre-contract agreements. They can sign offer sheets. It's all logistics, really. But I would like us to get these deals done. It's not as urgent as people think it is. And look, everybody wants to write about Chelsea because, like it or not, this fan base does suffer from a little PTSD. Chelsea is always the most interesting club in Europe. For better or worse, we are always the most interesting. We are oftentimes the most nefarious, and we are the most talked about, and we make the most headlines. So anytime you write about finances, Chelsea, in the mud, in the red, okay, it will get clicks. And these guys, there's all so much stratification between internet journalism now that they need these links. They need these clicks in order to survive and justify advertising dollars. So it's all that.
And one other thing that should be mentioned, because of the 3-year thing, and I think the Premier League, I'm not sure if it's 3 years, but they certainly don't work in 1-year windows for their financial rules as well. So let's not forget that the biggest problem in all of this wasn't any of the Bowley signings, it was Romelu Lukaku. Let's not forget that. So Vic says here the turnover was so-and-so and the 123 million profit. Player sales, how much can we make on player sales this summer? New jersey sponsor also coming in. Now, the jersey sponsor, I assume, would only start on July 1st, not June 1st. So even if, and I don't know how the shirt sponsorship deals work in terms of payment, are you paid upfront for the rest of the year? Are you paid in quarters over the year? I don't know how you're paid by shirt sponsors. I don't know how that works, if I'm honest. So I'm not sure how much that would help us for this, just because I think the shirt sponsorship will probably
Laurenz,
start in the next financial year.
On this? I want to say one more thing. When you sell a player, you can put that revenue on your books immediately. The reason that we were actually so savvy with buying players like Mudryk, buying players like
I'm aware, but I'm talking about
you can stratify that over the years of the contract. But with the revenue, this is the reason why I think the revenue is so important within the immediacy of the revenue, is that we could put that on the books immediately, right? And we could justify that immediately within our balancing our sheet. So
there you go. No, fair play. But is there anything else you would have wanted to add?
I don't want to take such a bath on the Lukaku deal, but I do want to get him sold because it's embarrassing.
Yeah. That is a whole separate situation, though, in terms of how likely that is to happen, my God.
Oh, I think we got fleeced, and I mean in more ways than one with Inter. I think that there was actually some other stuff going on because they were in such a hole after COVID that it just, man, I feel like we were done something there, man. Really something really unethical. But that's just me.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Now I could do a whole separate stream about this, but I'm just in terms of who we think we should sell and how much we would like to potentially get for them. Just gonna bring up a tier list quickly, but I'm only gonna do this part. We're not gonna do the rest of the tier list. We're just gonna put up, because that might be another stream one day. And
hey, it's been a good stream, man. I've had fun.
True, but look at this. Look at all these players. 95% of them I've never even flipped heard of, so I don't know who all these people are. But anyways, we start at the top. We know Bettinelli has just signed a new contract, by the way, for 2 years. So, fair enough. You need a backup goalie. Also, if we're going to get rid of so many academy players, potentially for financial fair play, you still need 8 homegrown players in your squad from Premier League rules. So, like, having a Bettinelli there, who's obviously English, he will help. People forget that as well when they say, oh, yeah, we're going to sell Loftus-Cheek and Mount and Chilwell and Gallagher and everybody else as well that's English. No, we can't. You need at least 8.
So homegrown is just English, right? It doesn't have to be grown within your academy through the ranks, correct? I just want to clarify that.
No, I think if you're English, well, I guess Madueke doesn't count as homegrown as such. Okay. But being English, the likelihood is it doesn't need to be at your club, but it needs to be in England, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Or I'm not sure if Scotland counts, actually. I'm not sure if Scotland counts or not. But yeah, there we go. Just to start with the goalies, get it out of the way. Pice, Kepa, should he be sold? Should he stay?
If he wants to be a backup, keep. If not, sell.
But which goalie would you like instead? Because my doubt has always been, no matter who the goalie is, they're not that we've been linked to. None of them are clearly enough better than Kepa, where it's like a clear new number 1, new number 2 situation. So,
I would like Magnan. I would like Neuer. I would like.
Okay, well, with those two, he would be a clear number 2. I do agree.
Trying to think who else. I mean, I'm a big fan of David Raya.
But would he be a clear number 1 over Kepa to you, though? Like, clear?
Yeah, I think he's better than Kepa. Yeah.
Yeah, but better isn't everything, though, is it? Like, there's experience, it's knowing your teammates, it's, it's not just like look. My annoyance from this whole Kepa thing comes from the fact that we signed Kepa on a 7-year deal for a record-breaking fee, and then just as he's entering where a goalkeeper is actually supposed to be good in his years, that's when we're getting rid of him. I'm like, what
Kepa
a whole waste of 4 years until now. Like, we should what a whole waste. But anyway, okay. Carlito, what's your thoughts, Kepa? Would you want him to stay as a backup? Would you want him to stay as the first choice? What do you think?
No, he makes too much money. Gabriel Slonina, bring him in. I used to work for...
I mean, you're American, so maybe you will know better.
No, well, I used to work for an MLS club.
I just don't know. Like, people act like Slonina is this guaranteed first choice in a few years. I'm like, can we hold our horses?
He played first choice football for Chicago. He is quite good.
No, I'm sure he's good, but Kepa also played first choice football for Athletic Bilbao. It's a lot better than Chicago Fire.
Yeah, but Slonina is also much bigger.
No, of course he's younger, and I'm not saying he definitely won't be. I'm just saying, how can we all be so sure? He's a goalkeeper.
I'm talking about
he looks
bigger.
Like he's 12. Give the guy
we talk about Mason Mount. We talk about Mason Mount with limitations to athleticism. There are limitations to Kepa, and some of them.
There are also limitations to Slonina, though. Look at him.
He's huge.
He might be huge, but look at how thin he is.
Okay, he's 18.
You can never be sure that whether he's going to fill out his body. We can expect so.
I've seen him play. He is quite good. So now Kepa's just got. There are certain things that the goal he let go across the box against City, and he did the same thing against someone very recently. Like, no, man, shit like that. That's not just athleticism. Issues. That's decision making issues too. Yeah. I mean, I don't think he has done near enough to justify any of the amount of money we've spent. So no, I think he's got to go.
Fair enough. Bettinelli, we can leave there for now. But if we are assuming that Kepa has to go, and we know that Mendy doesn't want to be backup, that's why he doesn't want to sign a new contract. So are you making Slonina the backup next season, Pice, or are you selling Kepa and Mendy? Or, well, are you selling Kepa and Mendy and then you buy two, or do you make Slonina the backup?
I don't know too much about Slonina. I'm not sure if he's ready to be a backup, to be honest. But I would sell both Kepa and Mendy if we could and make him backup. But yeah, I think personally, I'd love Mendy to succeed still. But I think it's like a 1% chance that he stays. So yeah, I think if we could get bids, probably like 50 million combined for both of them, I would sell both of them personally.
Just leaves us with screams panic buy already to me. If you get rid of both goalies, then by the time we got the replacement goalie sorted, we're going to be struggling again. Like when Courtois left and we couldn't get Alisson and we ended up with Kepa. Just dangerous business in my opinion. But hey, here we are. Obviously, Slonina isn't going anywhere. Obviously, Badiashile isn't going anywhere. Obviously, Thiago Silva isn't going anywhere. Next one, Trevor Chalobah. Sorry, Cully. So I didn't ask you about Mendy. Mendy, would you sell him as well?
Oh yeah, no, and I want to pull PSG with some of the goalkeepers that they've done recently. They'll sign a veteran that's had a really good career that's on a free. I'd like us to do something like that, like a Keylor Navas or something of that ilk. Manuel Neuer's on like $450,000 a week, but someone that is still very good but's on a free transfer. I'd like for us to look for a deal while we develop Gaga Slonina.
Sure. Fair enough. Let's get to Chalobah. I'll stick with you. Kalita, would you sell him?
Sell. He is an average player. Sell.
Okay. Pice, would you agree?
Who?
Chalobah?
I think he's going to be sold. Would I sell him? No. But I think he would be sold.
But on the basis of what would you not think that we have way too many centre backs if we don't sell him?
No, I would sell Koulibaly instead of Chalobah.
Fair enough. I agree that he probably will be sold. Do I think he should be sold? In terms of just being realistic, that Koulibaly, even though there was a few talks for a little while, but then he's sorted himself out a bit. So now I think the likelihood of us selling a guy we signed a year ago is just very slim. So therefore, and with the whole us knowing we make more money from selling homegrown players type thing that we didn't buy. So yeah, just from that basis, unfortunately, think that will happen. This should be a quick one. Ben Chilwell, Pice?
No, not for me personally, unless we get like a big bid.
Okay. Carlito, for you?
I don't think there's anybody better, so no way.
There you go. Reece James, obvious. I mean, Koulibaly. Carlito, do you agree with Pice?
No, I love Koulibaly.
Fair. But Pice, would you just said you would sell him, so would you put him in the sell list up here for this one?
Well, it's a bit situational for me because my comment was based on if it was Chalobah or Koulibaly, I would sell Koulibaly. So, yeah, I just think Chalobah offers way more for our future, and I think he's been very reliable when he's played for us. Koulibaly has not. So
Wouldn't you find it a bit like obviously we'll still have Thiago Silva, but otherwise our centre backs would just be so young if you get rid of Koulibaly as well, and if you add two new goalies to that, like. You guys are unhappy about this season. Imagine next season. It's going to be the same thing all over again, no matter the manager. If you have a centre back, a bunch of centre backs where one is 39 and all the others are about 12, and then you have a new goalie, I'm not quite sure how that's going to function.
Has Koulibaly ever showed any leadership skills for Chelsea?
No, but it's not necessarily purely leadership. I'm more talking experience rather than leadership, because I don't think to be a leader you necessarily have
his experience hasn't come in handy, that's for sure. I think
pushing back on that. Dortmund game, the first City game with
but it's been only a couple. It is true. Like Koulibaly hasn't been the best.
That takes time. It's a new league.
And the last game didn't look great either against Everton.
Yikes.
I'm caught in two minds with Koulibaly, because a few weeks ago I would have said, off you go. But at the same time, then he really started to play well. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. You took a few months. Good. So I guess for Koulibaly, I will, for the time being, I would just say I don't know, because the rest of the season will determine what I think of that. If he keeps kicking on positively from now until the end of the season, then why would I sell him? Do you know what I mean? But if he keeps falling back into a slump, then I'm like, well, you had one good month in a whole season, so then maybe I would be willing to. But fair enough.
Can we just say, Kim Min-jae from Napoli is going to get his release clause bought out. Napoli will want a centre back, and they would happily take Koulibaly back. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, you're not wrong, probably.
Could help in Osimhen negotiations as well. We don't know.
With what negotiations? Osimhen, yeah. But they still hate us. I would intrigued to know whether De Laurentiis hates Chelsea as a whole or just Marina. So I don't know.
I think just the previous regime, because he was quite. Didn't he say publicly he was like impressed with how we handled the negotiations or something? I'm pretty sure he said that publicly.
Yes, he did.
Oh, well, yeah. Fair enough. All right then. But we move on because, like I say, I'm abstaining from Koulibaly, so it's kind of 2v1 for not selling. Aspilicueta, I'm sure we're all in agreement there. Whether it's going, I think he signed a 2-year contract last year, didn't he? So we would have to sell him. It's not just leaving. But yeah, I think we all agree that.
I bought his plane ticket at Heathrow. I bought his Uber. I packed his bags. He's got a middle seat. He's got a middle seat on Ryanair. That's where he's going to.
It's a bit harsh. Come on, give him at least a window seat.
He's going to take that airplane ride to España.
Give him at least a window seat. Come on.
He can leave and never come back. Ever.
Yeah, no, I'm
not
agree.
a fan.
Sorry, I just quickly want to jump ahead a little bit. Aubameyang needs to get gone.
Yeah.
Marco Corella. What do we do with him?
I like him.
I like him too, but if we got Colwell and Badiashile and Chilwell, what do I do with you? You haven't looked good at left back. You haven't looked good at left wing back. You've looked good at left centre back, but there we have two players who are both younger and probably better than you. Maybe less convinced about that long term with Badiashile in terms of stylistically for an opponent, but at least in terms of Colwell. So I'm like, well, I will say still no to selling him, because I'm like, I still think there's a very good left back in there, and we will eventually see that. But as of now, he hasn't shown me that. So, yeah. I mean, you say you like him, so I assume you're going to say no, Carlito?
No, I want to sell Maatsen and Lewis Hall. I think Cucurella is going to come good. I think it takes a while to play for Chelsea and be good. It just does.
Surely you would
huge
first
club.
loan Lewis Hall, no, before you sell him. Because then you can make a lot more money on him in like 3 years, even if you don't want to keep him.
Loan with an obligation to buy. How about that?
How can you think he's that bad? It makes no sense to me.
I'm not a Cobham guy, man.
But it doesn't matter though. Like, he's clearly not bad. I mean, he's played 3 games for us, and in 6 games for us, and in 5 of those he was our best player. Like, that's insane. I know that was because the others were all awful in those games. I'm very aware. But
yeah,
still.
but I look. Ben Chilwell's 26. I think Mark Cucurella is 25. They'll be good at this position for 6 years. I mean,
you could argue Lewis Hall is supposedly in midfield anyway, even though we haven't seen him play well.
Yeah, well, I saw him play a little midfield, and no, he's not a midfield for a Premier League team. No,
not yet. Anyway. The kid's 18. Let's not forget.
I'm not killing him. I'm just
saying. Judging by that, we need to sell Slonina as well.
You are killing him because you want to sell him already, bro. He's only 18.
Well, I think there's this misnomer that the natural next step once you graduate from the academy is to come to the first team. That's not the case at all.
I agree.
Should be sold or loaned. I mean, if you're going to get to the first team, that should be the outlier. That should not be the rule. It should be the exception to the rule.
I agree. I agree with that completely. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a mixed step, isn't it? Like first you kind of graduate from the academy, then you get a bit of first team minutes. That makes other clubs interested in getting you on loan, and then that happens. But yeah, I mean, Pais Cucurella, what do you think?
Oh, keep definitely keep. I think there's definitely a great player in there. I've seen it already, so for Brian, I think he'll do well next season.
First, obviously Fofana we're all keeping, Enzo Fernandez we're all keeping, Kante, I mean, he's signing a new contract, so he's staying, no point discussing it. Mateo Kovacic, Pais, I know you're going to obviously say no to selling him. It was weird because there's been a couple of reports now, yesterday, and a few weeks ago that we might not extend his contract, but there was one report in the middle of those two that we are considering, that we are going to start negotiating for a new contract. So what do you think will happen with him? And obviously, I know you wouldn't sell
Bro, if we sell Kovacic, man, I'm so done. I'll be so
Now, if
sad.
we sell him to Bayern, you will actually become a Bayern fan.
Bro, I will. I will. No, bro, like, I have to tune into their games, man. Kovacic, I just love the guy, man. But I don't know what I think is going to happen, because I think it's one of those ones where, like, he's been captain for 3 games in a row recently. He scored a great goal against Leicester. Potter's been praising him, but there's still been no contract talk. So, like, what the fuck? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
I really can't say right now. I would probably lean towards the club are probably going to sell him right now, but I think it's one of those ones where it's like it could just happen very quickly. And it's like, because I don't think personally Kovacic is like a money hungry like player. I just think he wants to be settled and that sort of thing. So I don't even know how much he's on right now, but
Neither do I.
yeah, it's
Probably
hope
we
more than
sold all of
anything.
his missus's best friends because our best friends were like Christensen and Christensen's
Well,
wife.
he's
and
like
Timo's
one.
wife.
You think about it though, like if we sell him, we got Kante as our most experienced midfielder, and then the rest are like fucking kids, bro. Like Kante is just hardly even available anyway.
You say that. Who even would be another centre midfielder? It's then Kante and Enzo, and who else is actually a centre mid? Ruben, and that's it.
Maker.
He's not even a real centre mid. He's more of a 8 or 10, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's no. I think it just wouldn't make sense to sell him.
No, we need to squad clear out, but it's pointless if we do it in positions where we're not actually stacked, because then we need to just buy new players anyway. So,
look, I only think we should sell him if he like genuinely wants to leave. If not, I think we're stupid. Like, if we go, you're being sold, we're fucking idiots.
Yeah, I wouldn't sell him. Just because I'm like, why would we put ourselves in a position where we, again, light in midfield? Kante will be injured again. Why would we want to be light in midfield again?
Honestly, like, I can't do this whole, like, I've seen so much reporting lately, like, Chelsea feel confident this, surgery for Kante has fixed everything. It's like, bro, like, I wish in my wildest dreams, he could.
They're acting as if he only has one hamstring. What about the flip another leg?
Bro, we haven't seen Kante fit for like 4 fucking seasons. Like, I don't understand where this confidence is coming from that it's sorted now. Like, are you crazy?
It's media confidence, probably not even the club, but who knows?
I found it funny the other day as well. Like, Chelsea themselves said on their post when Kante played against Charlton in a behind closed door friendly, they said Kante got through 60 minutes unscathed, like it was like some sort of miracle.
I mean, they were like crossing their fingers the whole
time.
I do want to give a shout out, by the way, to Mason Mount for that. The fact that he turned up with wearing back Kante shirt back to front was
no. That was a look at me, Louis situation.
No, I don't care. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. Kante would have been on the bench, looked at Mount, and would have had to laugh.
Hey, Thiago Silva was there as well. I would have praised Thiago Silva if he did it, so I kind of have to praise Mount. Thiago Silva was chilling as well watching the game. So,
big up Thiago as well, obviously.
This guy, Chelsea all the way, says sell Kova. He's 29. He's not 29. This is the thing that people
fucking up, bro. We can't have a squad from 18 to like 25-year-olds.
Yeah, but the thing that people on the internet do is that they'll make someone either younger or older to reinforce the argument that they're trying to make. He's trying to reinforce that Kova's older. He's 28, so don't lie about his age, please.
But he does turn 29 in May. So at the time we would sell him,
you're gonna like my response though. Mateo Kovacic is my favorite footballer in the sport. He is number 1, my favorite player in the whole sport.
Now, Pice, when I love you, I'm now questioning everything.
I love the player. Yeah, but I played midfield and I kind of played like him. So I love his style. Now you look at like a guy like Luka Modric. They're very close. I think they're best friends. Yep. And Luka Modric is like 38 years old. He's still going. He's still an unbelievable player. Kovac's going to be good for a very long time. We would be insane to sell this guy. He is so good. And what I really wanted to see was him and Enzo play together. And when those two play together, there is a lot of chemistry. There's a lot of off-ball movement. There's a lot of 1 or 2 touches.
But still no midfield balance, though.
Hold on. You need one more guy. You may need one more guy in there. Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
But if you do that, then we're back to a 4-3-3 and you might as well keep out.
Hold on.
Go on.
There are 90 minutes in the game. You can play a different way. for the first 60 and then another way for the last 30. Conte can maybe come in for the last 30. Then you'll have more balance. But I'm willing to be a risk taker with some of the lack of defensive prowess from Enzo and Kova. But what they do on the ball is beautiful. And I do not want to sell him to any rival. I think he's one of the most unique players in the world. And we cannot have a squad of 22-year-old players. Manu Kone would, if he came in, he would not be able to start. He's not as good as Enzo, not even close. So yeah, no, look, if he wants to stay, he's on $100K a week right now. $100K. Okay, if he wants to stay, we give him a little raise. We give him captaincy. I don't know. That'd be kind of a big deal. Fuck yeah, keep him. He's amazing. He's an amazing player.
But I mean, I would be against making him captain. Personally, not because I have a problem with him, but surely you would pick either Thiago Silva or Reece James over him, no?
Reece James,
as in long-term.
Reece James gets into fights with people.
Yeah, Silva gets into fights with people.
Yeah, Reece James is a little testy though. I mean, I love Reece James is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I see that, but you know, I'm sure you remember when we played Spurs. Kovacic does love a little fight.
Hey, he loves a little fight with Dele Alli.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, who doesn't?
That's true. That's true. Especially
Fuck
Jose.
Dele Alli.
Exactly.
I mean, no. Dele Alli fucked himself, dude.
So, executive decision: Ruben is not getting sold. No, I'll let you answer. Pipes, Ruben selling him? Yes or no? Pipes?
You know what's funny is I think he would be still a good squad player next season. I would rather sell Gallagher than him personally. So I'm gonna. Oh, I don't know because if it's so like dependent. Like I don't know where he's gonna get minutes. And personally, I think I'm actually gonna put. I like Ruben. I'm gonna put him in sell. Sorry, because I think Chukwuemeka. I think we should be prioritizing his minutes now.
I just think those two play different positions though. At least judging by where Potter's using them. Ruben is being used at right wing back and at DM. And Chukwuemeka.
Yeah, but he won't be though because we now have
one in the front three of a 3-4-3.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we now have Gusto, so he won't.
Yeah. No, I'm aware, but still, Chukwuemeka has never been used as a DM by. Well, Tuchel didn't get a chance, but it hasn't been used by Potter there anyway.
Well, you look at the way Andre Santos plays. Andre Santos is the guy that checks in to receive the ball from the keeper or the center backs. Like he operates in those spaces. Now, I'm not saying he's a great defender or anything, but he operates in those spaces, similar to where Ruben's been asked to play recently. And Andre Santos has now been called up to the first team for Brazil. He's just this meteoric rise of his.
I'm still very intrigued if we're going to loan him next season or play.
I don't know, man. I don't think so. I think that they will at least give him a really good look.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Would you sell Ruben? Carlito?
Yep.
Nice. Now, I am outvoted, but it's my channel, so I'm going to keep it down here.
Oh, democracy in action.
Hey, fuck democracy.
Apparently my country feels the same.
You know, like people are watching, they know you guys want to sell him. People know I don't want to sell him. I think he's a useful squad player. Who does? The problem with Ruben is that his wages are quite high for what he does. I'm aware of that. That is a bit of a problem. But otherwise, you know,
his wages are 120 a week.
Exactly. For being a squad player, that's a bit high.
It's pretty high.
Well, yeah. So, you know, we're like, oh, well, Mount will go because he doesn't want to be a bench player. Well, Ruben is okay with being a bench player. You need one or two of those. Do you know what I mean? That's my thinking. But I understand. Sure. Mason Mount, judging by what you boys have said earlier, you're probably going to put him in sell at this point. Would I be correct in assuming that, Carlito?
I mean, I'll have to wipe the blood off my mouth because I'm so intrigued by the prospect of selling him. I don't like this player. It's not that I'm indifferent of him. I actually just don't like him because I don't like the character that he's cultivated within the media. I don't when Mason Mount.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't like
Germany are losing to Belgium. Hansi Flick in the mud again.
Oh. So there you go. Yeah, no, I don't like him. So I want him going.
Who even loses to Belgium? They are shit.
They used to be really good 2 years ago.
Was it Lukaku who scored again?
No, Carrasco actually.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Bro, he scored a hat trick the other night. I was like, "Fucking get in, let's go!"
But did you see the goals as well? Like literally, he scored all of them from like 2 yards.
Yeah, I was like fucking just waiting in the box and tapping it.
Sweden were all over the shop. My God, we're in a group with them as well. My days. But yeah, sorry, Carlito, you were saying still about Mason.
Yeah, no, I just don't like him. I think we are better without him. So that's it.
Yes, Pice, you gonna stick to him and selling? Yeah.
Selling Mount. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
I would probably keep him personally. Yeah, I would probably keep him.
Yeah, I mean, if it's about selling to Liverpool, I would say absolutely no chance.
But starter, like if he starts like if he has like this thing where he starts over like Felix and Kunku and stuff like that can't run. Like if that's the situation, then fuck off, honestly.
But that wouldn't be his fault though.
Well, no, I know, but like
he wouldn't pick himself.
I don't know. Like if he gets some sort of like guaranteed bullshit into his contract that he has to play a certain amount of minutes, like we all thought Willian used to once have, then that ain't running for me.
Well, we all know Mason likes to play in the games, you know.
He does like to play in the games.
He likes to play in the games.
It's a tough one because if you ask me, do I want to sell Mount? No. But do I want to give Mount a huge contract if he's going to then sit on the bench? Also no. So that's why.
Exactly. It's such like a... Can we just put him in like... I don't know category?
Yeah, genuinely.
If they're gonna,
I just am like... I like Nkunku, but why did we even sign it? That's the part I don't understand. Why did we sign Nkunku only to sign Felix on loan 2 months later? That's the part. That's the illogical part, in my opinion. If you just sign Nkunku and you have Mount, and then if Nkunku does better, Mount is at least the next choice. That's okay. But if you've got Felix and Nkunku, you first need to find a way to put both of them in the team, which is possible, but not easy. And then what do you do with Mount? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, but because we might have both, it's pointless. And will I pick Mount over Felix? No. So yeah. But I still think having bought Nkunku so prematurely is kind of more of the issue here. Not because I have a problem with him, but then we decided to get Felix. I'm like, well, if you were going to get Felix, just spare yourself the 60 mil for Nkunku and just get Felix. But anyway, people will have different opinions on this. But I'm sorry, Khalid, I know you're not a fan.
No, we got vetoed again. I got vetoed again.
Seemingly, it's a 2v1 apparently on this one. It's a 2v1 apparently. Hey, to be fair, I got vetoed on Kepa. So, you know.
What is this European, bastardization of democracy? You're killing me over here.
This one was democracy, to be fair. The other one, I just overruled everyone.
This feels like more like oligarchical collectivism. I'm getting shut out over here.
Coming out with a big word here, bro. Zachary, rather than selling him, I guess for him the question applies, shall we buy him?
Hey, by the way, breaking news, Lukaku has just scored.
Oh, is that good? I can't tell.
Bro, they're beating Germany.
I mean, he scored against Germany, so I back it. Germany.
Fair enough.
Is Kai playing? Oh no, Kai travelled home because he's ill, even better. By the way, does anyone else feel like we're finessing every national team?
I think so.
It just felt like, Reece, we don't really want you to play anymore. And Kai, pretend you're ill, come back, mate.
Didn't Reece train today?
Did he?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, it looks... Fofana was training today. It's just like, yeah.
Fofana, honestly, Fofana put like a picture on his Snapchat where he was like doing like the shush thing, and he said put like the shush emoji, and then ... I was like, yeah, he's just
maybe he wants to play for Ivory Coast. One of the representatives of Ivory Coast said maybe he faked being injured. That would be quite funny. But Zakaria, Kalito, would you buy him? I assume no.
See, I think he's cool. I think he's got a cool attitude.
Cool. It's true.
I think he's got a good attitude. I think he works hard. I think he's a pretty good player. I just don't think he's really good. And I mean, we could buy better players, but I have appreciated his time here in particular, the Man City game. I thought he was great. But I mean, I want to see Andre Santos. Let's be honest.
So, like, if we had him, I wouldn't say sell him. But now that we need to buy him, I wouldn't say buy him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we also might see like a Lavia or like a Kone, maybe even both come in. So I don't think he's gonna be bought.
Yeah.
Oh, I think Lewis is talking a little bit of shit with that one. I saw Lewis's post. The Kone and Lavia. I think that's a bridge too far, but maybe one of them.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think with having Santos and apparently Chelsea rating Santos so highly, it would just be kind of counterintuitive, in my opinion, or counterproductive rather. Conor Gallagher. Now, I'm just going to put him there. I like the guy, but sorry, bro. We need money. You are worth a lot of money.
Yep.
You're not quite good enough, even though I like you as a guy. Like, he fights, he gives his hardest every time. I wish every Chelsea player tried as hard as he does every game. But
Kepa, man. Kepa just made a stupid mistake.
But did he concede from it?
Well, like he should have saved it, basically. McTominay scored against
Flipping
him.
McTominay, get in the bin, man.
How was Spain losing to Scotland? Sorry, man.
I mean, they might still win, I guess. Austria were losing to Estonia yesterday and we still won.
Estonia, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we missed the penalty and 2 open goals in the first 10 minutes, and all of a sudden we were 1-0 down. How's that happened then? Felt like Chelsea all over again. But Gallagher, Pice, I assume you're in agreement? Pice, sorry?
Yeah, no, this guy, I like Gallagher's attitude, but sell, like, come on. Like, we can get like 40 million for him. It's the most no-brainer sell ever.
Yeah, fair enough. Khalid, are you in agreement as well, I assume?
Randy Jackson, it's going to be a no for me, dog. I don't want him here. He's got to go. It's time to go.
Fair enough. Chukwuemeka, I think we're all happy for him to stay.
Love him.
Christian Pulisic. Now, that's an interesting one. Khalid, I'll start with you. Now, we probably all know that he will go, but would you let him go?
I'm split on my attitude towards him because I really like the player. I don't like the dude. I don't like the man. I think that he complains way too much. I will never forgive his father for the tweet. He does way too many interviews. His profile is too ostentatious in media. He just wants to be seen all over the place. He loves the Captain America bullshit. And he probably thinks he deserves to start all the time on Chelsea. And you could tell because when he is asked about it, he loves to answer the questions about Chelsea. I don't like that. I don't like the omnipresence in the media. And because of that and the fact that he missed...
Do you not see his interview the other day, though, bro? I think he spoke really good about Chelsea, considering how much he's been benched.
I didn't see the interview.
I think that he does a ton of... I saw the interview. But I think he does way too many interviews, and I just don't like it.
You think that's his choice, though?
Of course it's his choice.
I don't think so.
No,
he's not obligated to do it. He does these things all the time.
Yeah, well, I think he kind of is. He's captain of the US national team. He's, for just the US market. He's a big asset for Chelsea in that sense. Players are, contractually obliged to fulfill a certain amount of media duties.
And he certainly goes above and beyond that duty.
Maybe he does go above and beyond. I don't know. To be honest, I don't actually see that many interviews of him. But you being American,
it's a lot of American stuff. No, as a player, I think he's quite good. Actually, there are times where he's devastating. But it does not.
It's just that doesn't happen quite regularly enough.
And he's injury prone. It just does not supersede the fact that I don't like the guy. So
fair enough. So would you sell or would you keep?
If we got more than 40 million, I would sell. Otherwise, no. I'd make him sign a new deal.
Okay, then I'll ask Pice before we find a decision. What would you do with Christian?
I would keep Pulisic. I think he'd be a great rotational player, great backup.
Who would have thought that people would say keep Pulisic?
I just don't think he wants to be that anymore. I think he wants to take another step.
And I understand that as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I understand it. But if
we
sell him to a Premier League team, like the thing is with Pulisic is I don't see many teams we could sell him to. And if he goes to a Premier League rival, I can almost guarantee there'll be a point next season where we're like, we shouldn't have sold him.
Yeah.
And I just can't be asked for that conversation. So can we just
the problem is if you sell him to Newcastle, would he play over St. Maximin? Now St. Maximin is always injured. But when they're both fit, would he even play all the time? I'm not even sure how valid of an option Newcastle is in terms of him being a guaranteed starter. But yeah, Kalita, you were trying to say that for a second.
I think that he's in Italy. He's been linked to Juventus and he's been linked to Napoli. Now, where he would play at Napoli, I have no idea. But geez, Louise, that left wing, he's something.
Man, he's special.
Just I don't know, the best left wing in the world. So but he's been linked with Juventus. As great as I think. Their Italian winger is also coming off a devastating knee injury.
Chiesa. But Chiesa can play on both sides.
Chiesa can do everything. So he's not limited to the left wing. But I feel as though if we're gonna sell him, I want 40 million, and I don't want him to go to Manchester United.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. All right, João Felix. I mean, I guess we probably all want to sign him, right? I assume.
Best player on the team.
Of course. Mudryk, I mean, he's not going. Sterling isn't going. I'm under Broya.
Do you want to sign Felix, Laurenz?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would rather it doesn't cost 100 mil, but I want to sign him, if that makes sense.
Hey, there's another team.
No. So see, but my reasoning for this is simple as Well, we're building a team around him right now, essentially. So these 6 months would be complete waste if we don't sign him. So on the basis of that, well, we have to sign him now.
You know what it is with Felix is that if we don't sign him, Man U, Arsenal are just going to be waiting there, and if like that talent goes to those teams where they're already like kind of more like, because we're not like fully. I guess Man U's kind of a little bit more built than us, but like more like the finished article. Like if he went to Arsenal, because that's where he could have gone to. Oh my god, bro, you don't even know the things he'd do in that attack. Like, so that's why I'd rather just keep him.
Would he play for them though? Would he play over Odegaard?
I think they'd find a way to fit him in somehow. Like you can't have a player like Felix.
He'd play over Xhaka.
Oh, Xhaka, the DM. That'd be funny.
So they play. Sometimes Xhaka actually does drift up. The other thing I want to say about Felix is that this is where I want to start using the assets that we currently have and include them into deals, because that is another club that Pulisic has been linked with. That's another club that Lukaku has been linked with.
Yeah,
it'll bring down the price.
We could really try with it.
100%.
Or 100%. Napoli, if we want Osimhen.
Yeah. So like, look, if you, I think the price tag for Felix is 80. If you give him Pulisic and 40, then that's a win-win for both teams.
Yeah. No, there you go.
That's how I feel.
Fair play. Let's rattle through these. Amanda Broya, obviously currently injured. We also don't have a lot of strikers. So I would, on the basis of that, not sell him, see how he does after the injury, and then we can decide again next year if we want to keep the guy long-term or not. I mean, he just signed a 6-year contract, so we're not exactly forced to sell him instantly. People in agreement with that? Let's just see how he is after the injury before we make a decision on that.
Yeah.
Pice, you as well?
Who's this?
Broya?
Sell personally.
Even before we know how he does after the injury?
Yeah, because I don't think he's going to get any chances, so I might as well sell him or loan him, either or.
I still think
I think you will get chances, you know.
I don't think there's a market.
Really? If we sign a striker, right, and then Broya's not even going to be the backup, because then you'd have Felix, Potter would play him there before Broya, Havertz, Potter would play him there before Broya.
I don't think so. Havertz, yeah, really? I don't think you would play Felix there over Broya.
And Kunku, he leads the line for life.
Yeah, I forgot about Kunku, to be fair.
I just think it's very tough for him, and I think it's an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, it's true, but he's not going to be fit by the summer, I think. Yeah. So, are you going to be able to even sell him? So, I don't know. Maybe I just keep him for one more year, see how it goes. If he maybe
a Prem loan to see if he can discover some of his form and play more, because I just don't think it's beneficial for him to stay in next season.
Yeah. Maybe in January next season.
Yeah,
next year. We'll see. Hakim Ziyech, let's just do a quick. Hakim Ziyech, assume we all agree he needs to go. I mean, he was already gone. Yeah. All right. No one's interjected so far. David Dacia Fofana. Is that a loan thing?
Loan.
There's a loan thing, but he urgently needs a loan, and he should not be anywhere near the first team squad next season, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So I'm going to put him here, but I don't actually want to sell him. I'm just going to put him here for this.
Loan.
Kai Havertz. Carlito, you're going to say no, aren't you?
There's only one player that we can bring in that would justify selling Havertz, because I think Havertz is that good and that unique, and that is Victor Osimhen. If he does not come in, which is I'd say it's the 30% chance that we buy him. So I'm going to keep Havertz unless we can bring in Osimhen. Otherwise, no, don't do it.
Okay. Pice, you're going to say so, Kai?
Kind of unsure, because I would, if like a 60 million bid come in, I would drive him to wherever bid that came from. But personally, I don't know. It's another thing where it's like, I don't know, like if he's gonna be happy here being, rotational, or if he's still gonna start. I don't know. But personally, I don't know, man. There's an unsure box. Put him in there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair. I mean, I wouldn't sell him, but it's also a case of,
oh my god,
whether it's Osimhen or another striker. If we sign another striker and we have Felix and Nkunku, well, what the flip is Havertz?
Pice. How about it?
The greatest thing since sliced bread has just happened.
Yes, baby, get in. Get in.
Kovacic has just scored a goal.
Bangers only, Laurenz. Bangers only.
Wait. Apparently, hang on. Let me see this. No. Oh, okay. Someone said it was a banger, but it was literally kind of a tap-in. But whatever.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
Everyone was like, probably banger on my timeline. It's not even a banger.
No. No, he scored, baby. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see.
Bro, why is everyone from Chelsea like doing bits? We need this in our
either doing bits or not playing. But yeah, okay, well, yeah, like I say with Kai, I don't like if we sign a serious striker. I don't know what we do with him, but I would rather keep him. Madueke, obviously, and the rest, obviously, Gusto isn't going anywhere. Colwell, I assume we all agree, should stay.
Oh, yeah.
And then the rest, I don't think we have enough time to get into all of these, like Bubba Rahmans and Ian Martins and Humphreys and Bakayokos. Who needs, what Bakayoko gets into still anyway.
Still here?
Yeah. I think his contract runs out this summer, actually. But yeah, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't,
how is that possible?
I don't know. We signed him in 2017, and it's 2023.
It was like a decade ago.
How is it possible?
No idea.
Didn't he sign a 5-year deal? Anyways, he's just missed the one-on-one. Who? Cover. I don't know who. Frodayoko. Yeah. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, please subscribe. That'd be massively appreciated. Please do check out Pice's website, londonsfirst.com. Link is down in the description. Please check out Worldwide Chelsea, which obviously Carlito is a part of alongside Sadiq. But yeah, if you haven't already, like I say, subscribe, hit the like button on your way out. That'd be massively appreciated. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and we'll see you next time.